Good evening, everyone. It is now February 13th, 2025. The time is 6:30 p.m., and this is the regular Fraser City Council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Baranski.
Present.
Mayor Lesich.
Here.
Councilmember Odell. Here. Councilmember Perry.
Here.
Councilmember Shornack.
Present.
Councilmember Stein.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Present.
That is a quorum, sir.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Do I have any additions, changes, or deletions from the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland, seconded by Councilmember Stein to approve the agenda of February 13th regular meeting. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item number 5, citizen participation on agenda items. If there's any citizens in the audience that would like to speak on an agenda item before we get to that item, now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing none, I will move on to item number 6, consent agenda. Councilmember Odell.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Wait,
Okay, hold on. Councilmember,
I'm sorry. I wanted to, my iPad's taking a long time to load. I was on the consent agenda, before you go ahead with it, I was unsure why we put the firework stipulation on it. I wanted to see if we could discuss that outside of the consent.
yes, so all you would do is say, I would like to remove item 6D and add it to the regular agenda.
Okay.
That's all you have to do.
So
There's no
does-
motion. It's-
But he already started it and someone seconded it.
Yeah, but it wasn't voted.
That's
on
fine.
yet.
Okay, so I'd like to move 6D,
6D?
6D, if we can discuss that in the regular part of the meeting.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, item 6D will now be 7K. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk? Okay. All right.
Thank you, sorry about that.
Would you like to start over, Mr. Odell, with the modified consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve consent, or the modified consent agenda, removing item 6D.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Odell, seconded by Councilmember Baranski to approve the amended consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, item number 7, new business. And by the way, we're having 2 meetings tonight. The first meeting is the regular meeting that we have every month on the second Thursday. The second meeting is a budget workshop where we'll be having an informal discussion with our department heads, city manager, et cetera, about their goals and objectives for the upcoming year. So that's why, if you are noticing, we do have 2 meetings, but they're back to back. All right, let's move on to 7A, board appointments. Number 1 is Ashley Taylor for the Board of Review. City Manager Levin, you want to tell us what this is for?
So for our tax board of review, we have board of review appointments, and for Ashley Taylor, that's the first board appointment, and after that, we also have one for zoning board of appeals for Scott Wall, Recreation Commission for Christine Cook, and also another Recreation Commission for Madeline
Pipscheck.
Pipscheck.
Say that again, Mr. Gischlack. Thank you. All right, item number 1, Board of Review, Ashley Taylor. Would anyone like to make a motion or have?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve Ashley Taylor to the City of Fraser Board of Review, 2-year term beginning 1/1/2025 and ending 12/31/2026.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Stein, seconded by Councilmember Baranski to approve the appointment of Ashley Taylor to our Board of Review. Any members of the audience like to comment? Seeing none, any questions from council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome, Ashley. Item number 2, Zoning Board of Appeals, Scott Wall. Any questions from council on this appointment? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I motion to I'm sorry, my brain's not working today, to accept Mr. Wall onto the commission.
Okay.
I'm looking for the wording on here. Hold on a sec. Not in it.
Motion to appoint Scott
Zoning,
Wall to the
yeah,
Zoning
Scott
Board of
Wall
Appeals.
to
Do
the-
we have an end date on that one? I don't have my,
Isn't that that's a,
Ending term December 31st, 2025.
okay.
trying to find him in our.
All right. Do we have a second on that? Okay. Motion by Councilmember Shornack, seconded by Councilmember Baranski to appoint Scott Wall to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term ending 12/31/2025. Anyone in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Scott. Item number 3, Recreation Commission. We have a nomination of Christine Cook for reappointment to the commission. Anyone like to make that motion?
I'd like to make the motion to accept Christine Cook. Cook, I'm sorry.
right.
To the Recreation Board, the term submitted to council till December 31st, 2027.
All right. I'll second that one. Motion by Councilmember Odell, seconded by Mayor Lesich, to appoint Christine Cook to the Recreation Commission, term ending 12/31/2027. Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome back, Christine. Item number 4, this is for a Recreation Commission appointment of Nadalyn Pipchick to a position on the Recreation Commission. Ending date on that one? Or ending date 12/31/2027. Anyone like to make the motion on that?
Make the motion, although I'm probably going to butcher her name, so we're just going to go with Nadalyn, just to be polite.
Second.
All right,
Appoint her to the Recreation Commission to end, you said 2027?
correct.
Okay.
All right, motion by Councilmember Shornack, seconded by Councilmember Odell, to appoint Nadalyn Pipchick to the Recreation Commission, term ending 12/31/2027. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for all of you for stepping up and serving our city. Item number 7B, the 2025 Poverty Exemption Policy and Application. City Manager.
As part of the process of taxes, we do have a poverty exemption policy that is based off the state standards, and it is something that we are required to do for our Board of Review. And you have the policy before you, and just looking for approval tonight.
Councilmember Odell.
Make a motion to approve the City of Fraser 2025 Poverty Exemption Policy Guidelines and State of Michigan required applications as submitted by the Assessing Department.
Second.
Okay, motion by Odell, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland to approve the 2025 Poverty Exemption Policy and Application. Any other council have any questions? Any member of the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 7C, Water System CDSMI Grant Additional Locations.
This is a drinking water asset management grant that we received in a prior year, and we are looking for a contract modification for it in the amount of $89,496. If you have any questions, we do have Ashley Carpenter here with AEW to address those for you.
Thank you. Good evening, Ashley. And what's your last name?
Carpenter?
Carpenter, thank you. Can you tell us a brief bit about the CDSMI program? A lot of people got letters in the mail,
Sure.
and so they may be wondering what is this program?
Sure. So this was a grant that the city received. Sorry? Welcome to council. Yeah, sorry, my first one, in place of Mike Figneron. So the city received a grant previously through Eagle to hydro-excavate a certain number of water services to determine their material type. So the contractor that you guys had hired was UIS. They completed that work successfully. They did 361 locations in the city. You guys have extra grant funding left over, and the state has approved additional locations be hydro-excavated. This will help fill out your water service inventory that is required to be submitted to the state every 5 years. So it's additional money that will go towards more hydro excavations.
And this is part of the lead and copper rule application?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Councilmember Shornack.
I was just going to approve
Okay?
the water system grant additional locations for the $89,496.
Okay, I would second that motion. Motion by Councilmember Shornack, seconded by Mayor Lesich, to approve the Water System CDS Semi-Grant as stated by Ashley. Any questions from council? Anyone from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, item 7D, Residential Cross-Connection Inspection Contract Renewal by Hydro.
Yeah, so the city entered a 3-year contract in 2021 with HydroCorp to begin your residential cross-connection inspection program. The 3 years has come and passed, so they have offered a renewal to extend the contract for an additional 2 years to continue your guys' residential cross-connection program.
How many residents are they doing it each year?
So you have to do all of them in a 10-year period, and you have just over, almost 4,600. So they are doing that in certain zones, and I'm sorry, I'm not good at quick math,
Okay.
so I can't divide that.
All right, well, it'd be over 10 years, so it'd be 460, 500 a year roughly. Okay. Councilmember Shornack.
I just want to make sure that the public knows that this is something that we're mandated to do by the state of Michigan. Because I don't want anybody thinking that we're just picking on them or that we are just trying to spend money. I want them to understand this is something that we have to do. So I know we haven't talked about it in a while, so I just wanted to bring that back to the surface so that everybody knows, so that I don't get those emails asking why we're doing this and why we're spending money. So that was all.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland.
I see that HydroCorp was the only one who responded to the initial RFP in 2021, and it looks like that's why we're going with them again. But do we have reason to believe that that would happen again, and that we
Yes,
shouldn't sort of-
yes. Currently, Roseville is in the process of also looking to put that out to bid, and this actually just came up today. And HydroCorp is the only known company in the area that does this service.
Okay. Okay.
All right. I'll make the motion to approve the residential cross-connection inspection contract renewal with HydroCorp for an additional 2 years.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Lesich, seconded by Councilmember Shornack to approve the residential cross-connection contract renewal. Any member of the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, item 7E, miscellaneous concrete repair program contract award to Luigi Ferdinandi and Sons.
So this is a construction contract. It's almost more of an extension as well. You guys had previously contracted with Luigi last year to perform your miscellaneous concrete program. They performed satisfactorily, and they have offered to hold all of their unit prices for this coming year. This is meant to be as an as-needed contract, so we're just asking that you approve a budget amount of $300,000 and also construction contract administration for AW with an estimated amount of $50,000.
Okay, so as-needed concrete, can you give us an example of the programs that would, or the reasons we would have as-needed concrete?
So I know this DPW has not chosen any streets to look at, but it was mentioned that where the water main program occurred, potentially looking at some of the pavement replacement there. And this would also cover where you guys had water main breaks, the replacement of that pavement as well.
Okay. All right, any members of council with a question? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to
7.
award a contract for the 2025 miscellaneous concrete repair program to Luigi Ferdinandi and Sons Cement Company Incorporated in the amount of $300,000 and authorize Anderson Eckstein Westrick Incorporated to provide construction engineering services in the estimated amount of $50,000 with a total authorization not to exceed $350,000.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland, seconded by Councilmember Baranski to approve the miscellaneous concrete repair program. Any questions from council? No? Any member of the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, you're 3 for 4. Item 7F, DPW parking lot construction change order.
Yeah, so previously, when Mark Ragsdale was here, this was budgeted to be completed in 3 phases. This is the reconstruction of the DPW parking lot. It was budgeted over fiscal year '23, '24, and '24, '25. The timing of the fuel pump work delayed the replacement of all of this parking lot. So the request is to complete all of this work in one construction season. And this will allow it to we will also maintain access to the yard and garage throughout the entirety of the project. We were asking to award this to Luigi, who has done your concrete road program. They have offered to hold prices from that contract and create a new contract for this project.
Any member of council with a question on that? And this was planned a couple years ago, and it just hasn't happened.
Correct.
All right, and we have budgeted this money for this year.
There is a second motion that would be required to make a budget amendment in the amount of $109,461.
Okay, let me find that.
I wish we would have had some pictures to bring because the parking lot, it's almost to the point where it's fallen apart and practically like a dirt road.
So we need 2 motions for this? Okay. Councilmember Odell.
I'll make a motion to award a contract for the DPW parking lot concrete replacement to Luigi Ferdinandi and Sons Cement Company in the amount of $268,761. Establish a contingency of $26,900. Authorize AEW to provide construction engineering services in the amount of $40,000 with a total authorization not to exceed $335,461.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Odell, seconded by Councilmember Shornack to approve the contract with Luigi Ferdinandi and Sons for the DPW parking lot contingencies and AEW fees. Any member of the audience like to speak on this? Seeing none, any member of council? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, we have 6 ayes and 1 no. The motion passes. Thank you. All right, then we need the budget amendment. Councilmember Odell.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment to account number 101-265-972.000 in the amount of $109,461.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Odell, seconded by Councilmember Baranski to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $109,461. Anyone in the audience? Council? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. 6-1, motion passes. Thank you very much. I think you're all set, Ashley. All right, item number 7G, DPS staffing request for Fire Marshal Sergeant position.
Shoelace. This is what happens when you don't tie your shoes. No, seriously. Your shoe's untied. I wasn't joking.
Good evening. Thank you to council for allowing us to,
Can you speak up into the,
sure,
he's going to open the door any
I know,
second.
we don't want that.
The mic Nazi.
Well, tonight we're here. I have asked Captain Gillis to join me in case there are any questions from council, in case he needs to fill in some of the gaps for finer details if it gets to that point. But as the council is aware, we've had a couple of subcommittee meetings regarding Department of Public Safety staffing levels and succession planning. And so this, the reason I'm before you this evening is a follow-up from our latest subcommittee meeting, where we discussed a couple of the things that I'm asking you for tonight, and the first one on the agenda is the fire marshal's position. The DPS has been running without a fire marshal position for several years, and historically within the department, it has been a sergeant who has been in charge of that position, and through attrition and loss of manpower, we were unable to sustain that position and had to put that sergeant to fulfill duties on road patrol. Captain Gillis has stepped up and been promoted into the fire captain position and has undergone a lot of training and continues to do that, and has been a stopgap for a lot of the responsibilities that the fire marshal has, in addition to other captain's duties that he serves. So after 2 meetings now with the subcommittee, and after vetting out the reasons and responsibilities of the fire marshal position, I'm here to request that we are able to promote a PSO to the rank of sergeant to fulfill those duties. I don't know how far you want to discuss what was happening in the subcommittee meeting. There were different options that were discussed, one being having that position be filled by a public safety officer. There was conversation about perhaps the position being filled by a contractual person that would come from the outside. And all of those options were laid on the table and discussed. It is our belief from the public safety standpoint, for several reasons, for the succession planning, for professional development, for room for advancement, that it would better serve us in our department to have that be a sergeant's position or a person of rank. Additionally, that sergeant will be the immediate supervisor for the fire division personnel. So as the council has allowed us to increase the fire division, we have 6 paramedics, we have 2 EMTs, we're running 2 ambulances, our fire trucks, and we've gotten our paid-on-call staff up to 10. It really is essential that we have somebody with authority and rank in that position, because not only will they be performing fire marshal duties, they will also be the immediate supervisors for those people in the fire division. Now, the sergeants in the public safety department who are downstairs certainly are have authority and are in charge of those firefighters now, but they are somewhat removed by proximity, mostly. But there's more activity out on the patrol side of things than in the fire division. There are chores and details and things that those officers up there are to be doing, and they just don't have the continuity of supervision that they really should have for the number of people that are up there. So that is another reason for the request for this position to be a sergeant capacity.
Okay. Council, members of the subcommittee, you were there. Any thoughts that you'd like to share with the council?
They're short-staffed, and they need the fire marshal position.
Okay.
That was brought to our attention through both meetings.
I know that you, excuse me, I apologize. I know that you stated that you wanted to be a sergeant. If the capacity is that, no, we can only do a PSO, let's say, how would that affect that job? Could you explain that,
Well, it wouldn't take away from the authority that the police have. There's also something about that in gaining compliance with the public, as opposed to somebody coming in plain clothes and trying to enforce the fire code. It just doesn't have the same level of respect, which is why we believe it should be a sworn person. Could it be done by a public safety officer? It can. There are other agencies that use a public safety officer in that capacity. We could do that, and I certainly wouldn't say no if you were to authorize that. The ask here this evening, though, is the sergeant's position for professional development in this department, to give people another avenue of things to do, since we are so small and there are limited units that people can go to for professional development and job satisfaction. And really, the crux of it as well is the supervision in that fire division, because there are 8 firefighter, medic, EMTs that don't have somebody up there steadily making sure that they come in on time and that they leave on time and that the reports are done on time and those reports are being reviewed in a timely fashion and that they're accurate. And having a sergeant in that position would shore that up.
And Captain Gillis right now is doing all those things, correct?
That's correct.
So being the third member of the committee, I wasn't present at the December meeting, which is, I guess, where you discussed this in depth. We've had 2 meetings. The first one, we talked about it really generally, and it was one of the reasons I came before council and said, we need to talk about the budget, because as much as we need the staff, and these are very important things, this is money that we have to find a way, because it's permanent, it's legacy, it's shorting the road, it's going to create different issues, it's plugging a hole but creating another hole that we have to find a way to fix. And that's why I was curious what was discussed about the budget or how you intend to pay for it, subcommittee members, putting the cards out there, because I would have talked about this after we talked about the budget. Because at this point, we've already gone 2-3 years without it.
Wasn't there something in the budget already for a fire marshal? Not as a sergeant, though, correct?
It was a sergeant. It's been a sergeant's position.
And it's been in the budget.
It was a sergeant's position prior, is my understanding, and you can fill in the gaps here if you.
I think the main question you might be asking is about our personnel. We currently.
Mike, get that mic close.
We currently have what I would say is an extra PSO, that if we have our budgeted 30 personnel, if you look at our org chart, we're actually carrying an extra PSO when we're fully staffed because no one was ever promoted to sergeant to fill the fire marshal spot. So the cost difference wouldn't be an entire whole new personnel. The cost difference would be the difference between a PSO and the promotion rate to a sergeant.
Correct, so if we use a PSO in that position, I'm just saying, then it would be already budgeted for, correct? If we didn't promote to sergeant.
Okay, so that's one of the things.
That's what I was, not that I would love for it to be a sergeant, but that's what I was thinking when you say budgeting and looking for funds. If
They're
we really
there.
need, they're there for that position, it's maybe not that title.
Yep. 30 sworn officers? I thought we had 29 sworn.
29 plus the director.
Got it, okay. So we have, how do we have an extra?
Just through our attrition, we have 1 in the fire academy right now.
We approved 2 a couple months.
Right,
hoppers.
but I
We've
thought we
hired
were
one since.
low. I thought we did that because we were low in,
Well, we hired 2 recently to backfill for people. Backfill for people that are leaving. So Captain Bisbee is slated to retire this year, as well as Officer Witkowski. And so, as the subcommittee discussed when we were having issues with the succession planning, because of the length of time that it takes to train people and get them up and running, then we're in the hole before we even start. And so the council allowed us to hire those 2 positions to just maintain where we are, to
Right.
fill those holes that we know are coming. Officer Witkowski's leaving, he's put in his letter, it's going to be in April. We've hired someone who hopefully will be trained up by then, because we were fortunate and we got somebody who is ready to roll that had most of the training already, it's just the FTO process. But then the person that we're looking to fill for Captain Bisbee does not. So that person that's on the bubble that's in the academy for us needs everything. So even once he leaves, that person still won't be ready, but the council allowed us to hire those 2 to fill those spots. It wasn't extra, even though it seems like extra.
Stop loss.
It keeps us right where we are,
Stop loss gap.
at 29 sworn officers.
plus me.
So then it would be additional to hire a fire marshal then?
No,
No, they would just take a PSO.
Sorry, we currently have a PSO in the fire academy. Once he's done with the fire academy, finishes his FTO program, if we're fully staffed, he would be a 5th PSO on one of the platoons.
Okay, so under the model you're running with the platoons, that's how it becomes extra
Correct.
body?
The
Can you
way-
explain that for everyone? 'Cause
The way the
that's-
org chart is broken up is there's 4 platoons of PSOs. Each platoon has 4 PSOs. Once this one, PSO Newberry, who's in the fire academy right now, Once he graduates, he's going to be what would be an extra patrol officer, where he would be a 5th PSO on a shift, because the way our 29+1 was to have a fire marshal position.
But in the meantime, if we did this now, we'd be shorting one of the platoons, right? If we make someone a fire marshal today,
The reason we're asking for this position now is because under the guidance of the subcommittee, it was to come and ask for both promotions for captain and fire marshal sergeant at the same time. Our thought process, and the director can correct me if I'm wrong, was we're not going to promote someone to the fire marshal position until the captain position is settled.
so we should talk about that first.
Yeah, they probably should have been opposite.
Like, I'm all for, especially if there's already going to be that person under the new structure, because that's the other thing we forgot about, that we are under, is it 12 hours now, right? So it's a different structure than in the past.
Which is why the numbers on the platoons are as they are. So it's four platoons, 4 people per platoon. And then as the captain was explaining, that's how the 5th person that's in the academy now will be
Right.
extra, which I don't consider anybody extra for the record. But that's how there's one more on one platoon than the rest.
Right, but that's where then the
And that's
money
the
difference is
slotted
less.
position for,
That's what I'm saying, when you're saying not budgeted.
Well,
Yes,
because I wasn't
for
at the
sergeant.
meeting. I
Okay.
wasn't at the meeting, so
Yeah.
we didn't get into the details at the one I was at. So, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, I've got some other questions here, maybe.
I'm sorry, yep, thank you.
No, that's all right. I just want to make sure we cover everyone. Councilmember Shornack, you're next.
Okay, so really quickly, how many sergeants do we currently have?
7.
Okay, so do you work like 1 or 2 per platoon?
One of the sergeants, so we'll just take him out of the mix quickly, is in investigations,
Okay,
okay?
so at least 6
Yeah, so we have 6 sergeants that
and 4 platoons.
road patrol, correct. So that's 1 per platoon, because you have to have a
Right.
supervisor per, ideally 2, really, so that when one person is off in training, sick,
Right.
vacation, whatever,
Life.
they're there, but we don't have that. We have 2 more then that work a swing shift or a swing platoon. So they're filling in now when somebody takes off. So there's 2 people that don't have the set schedule that everybody else has. Their schedule is subject to change based on,
More of a floater.
that's exactly what they are.
Okay. So, with that being said, do any of the sergeants who are currently there have the training to be the fire marshal?
There's not training that is required for them to take that position over. A lot
Okay.
of that is on-the-job training. There are certain standards, of course, that should be met, and there's certain knowledge that people need to have. But as Captain Gillis can attest, he was thrust into the position and didn't have any of that training. And we are confident that this sergeant would be up and running much sooner than he was, because he was having to figure it out as he went. But now that he's gone through it and has, figured out exactly what it is that's required and what's essential and what maybe isn't, the process to train the next person will be much smoother and quicker. So the answer to your question is no, no one has that training. That is something that is going to have to happen as the captain is training them with his field experience so far until they can get the classroom. If I'm
Okay.
correct in that.
And is there any sergeant currently interested in that position who is currently a sergeant?
I haven't put that out to say, hey, which one of you are interested. We haven't had that conversation because I don't know that I want to have a conversation if I don't know that it's going to happen. I am confident that there is at least one person who wants that position, absolutely.
Okay. So, because like right now at my job too, we're doing succession planning and everything. So like I'm training somebody to be a supervisor, to eventually be a manager under me, kind of thing, in case I need somebody back up and stuff like that. So my thought process here is this. If we already have a sergeant who would like to be the fire marshal, that we could promote said sergeant into that position. I know you still need a floater. So And then, so what I'm thinking too is at that point, if you have a PSO who's also interested in said position, to be learning that as this person's learning that too, because you need a backup. Like you said, vacation, God knows, cops can get hurt. I mean, the job itself, right? Anything could happen. Hell, you could be walking to your car and fall. And just any life, right? So we should have a succession plan for that as well. So you should have a PSO on the back burner, but if we already have a sergeant that would want that position, if I were in the organization, I would be like, well, how come we didn't, like the sergeants who are there didn't get asked first, before a PSO to be promoted? And what I was thinking is then if you have a PSO who then you want to test in for the sergeants, then that's something that isn't right now. It's coming kind of thing, but that way at least the initial thing that you need right now is a fire marshal. So you already have a sergeant who has more authority, so people will take them hopefully more seriously. Have that, find out which sergeant wants to do that, if there is one. Get that going right now. Have your backup PSO, who also that you're ready to take the test, because I know there's testing to be a sergeant. So like maybe in the summer/fall, that next person will be ready to step up.
Can I?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we wouldn't promote someone from PSO into the fire marshal. That wouldn't happen. We would take one of the sergeants that's already working in the capacity of a sergeant. So any new person that gets promoted to sergeant has to go through all of the things that road sergeants do. That's where you start. You don't just get promoted up into a position like that. You need to learn to be a sergeant first.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I said I know there's training and there's.
Correct. So,
the
and we
steps.
have a sergeant's list established from the last time we promoted. So there are 2 people that are already on that list, so we don't have to go through sergeant testing now. We would take somebody that's off that list and then invite our sergeants that are already established to this position, whomever it is that we chose.
Okay, so then in reality, the person that you're asking for to be the fire marshal is already a sergeant. So that's
correct.
not really promoting a sergeant into that position, because that position's already there. It's just unilaterally moving a sergeant over there, and then you want to promote somebody who already took a test
That's correct.
into a sergeant position so that they can be on the road.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not exactly what was presented. So that's why I was like, so in essence, what you're saying is just, you do need another sergeant, but that's because you're going to take a sergeant and move them over to the fire marshal position.
Yes.
Okay, that's not what was kind of presented, unless I'm totally off my game.
It still comes out to be a sergeant.
Well,
You still
I
need
understand
another
it's still a sergeant position. I'm just saying, when the initial conversation started, it was, we want to promote somebody to a sergeant to be the fire marshal, is what I was hearing. I'm like, that just seems silly when we have people there, but I do
I
understand.
apologize for the confusion if I didn't lay it out.
Yeah, no, that's,
No, we
well,
would-
it wasn't just you, it was everybody, so that's why I wanted clarification.
Maybe it was you.
No. I guarantee you, if you put rewind, you will understand why I thought that. Okay, so,
I understand what she's saying.
huh?
I understand what you're
Oh,
saying.
yeah, so, okay. And we weren't at the meetings. So, with regards to that, what is that look like on the budget, as far as your yearly budget currently? How is that going to affect the budget? Because obviously, we're going into the budget processing. And of course,
And it's something that would probably, well, I don't know that we would have to do an amendment for the rest of this year, just because of the time it's going to take for that to happen. As we're going to continue this conversation, it would be at least April before any of that even occurred. So we're talking maybe a month or 2 tops that would finish this year in this budget.
so could we delay it just for?
We could.
Just for that purpose of starting off fresh with a new budget year?
We
mean, is
could,
that like-
we've
would that kill
gone
y'all?
this far without it. Certainly, I wouldn't object to.
Because you knew it was coming, kind of thing, so we can prepare the budget correctly, instead of doing budget amendments would be better, if at all possible.
We could actually start doing some in-house training. We could get our ducks in a row so that when we were allowed to do that, we were ready to jump into it.
Okay. And then we would need to know, I think it probably would have been helpful if we would have maybe planned a little bit ahead more so, and had like just numbers that we know how it's going to affect even the next coming budget, like, because it is going to be an ongoing thing. I understand that you need the position, I get that 100%. I'm just wondering, both sides of the coin, right? I need to know how it affects you guys, 100%. I just want to know how it affects the budget as well, because of course it's going to hopefully go on in perpetuity, because hopefully this person's going to stick around for a while, and maybe hopefully retire from here. So just kind of looking at what those numbers would be, promoting a PSO to a sergeant. So
We've got the numbers on the ARF. She's got it outlined that for the first year, it would be approximately 143,000 added to the budget. The second year, 145,000, and the third, 149,000.
Those numbers are per contract for the sergeant. That's the sergeant contract numbers. If we're really not adding a position and we're moving a PSO into that position, it really is the difference between top pay of a PSO and the pay of a sergeant.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So really, it would be splitting the difference. It really wouldn't be that per se. Okay.
It'd be some percent of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm just looking at the numbers.
Right.
So. Okay.
All right, we have a couple more lights. Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland.
So there's nothing more that I would love than to do this and to give you guys the fire marshal right now. But when I take a look at it and I take it to 50,000-foot view, this is additional cost. And this council negotiated to vote for a reduction in PA 33. And this is exactly why I didn't want to do that, because we should have a fire marshal, and this is what we would need. But you can't have additional things and then not be able to pay them and give tax reductions. That's not how government works. So I just wanted to say that, because I actually am quite sick to my stomach that we reduced PA 33 and that now you guys are coming to us asking for this, and we have to think about budget amendments because we did a reduction when maybe that wasn't necessarily the best choice.
Okay. Thank you. I have another light from Councilmember Odell. Would you like to step in front of him, Mr. Denault?
Just if I could, to address Mayor
Please.
Pro Tem Sutherland's point, I was going to ask the question because I don't know the answer. Does the fire marshal position generate revenue? Because through inspections, I'm assuming there's a cost. Through citations for violations, I'm assuming there's a fine. But I'm assuming those things because I haven't worked with anybody since Jason Poole left, and I just don't remember if it was revenue generating.
Well, and would the revenue cover the cost of the position? I would like to know that too, then.
Because the difference between the sergeant position and the PSO top-level position is probably in the thousands of dollars, but not dramatically different. So I'm guessing, or I'm asking the question for revenue purposes to get to your point. I don't think anybody's talked about that possibility, and I'm curious what the answer is.
I'm not going to sit at the table and say that the fire marshal will be a money-generating machine, but fire inspections are $35 apiece for a inspection under 20,000 square feet. They go up to $125 for the next square footage, and then $175 for our larger buildings that are over 100,000 square feet. Once we get into more of the compliance issues, it's $300 if we have to make a third visit to a building to attempt to correct deficiencies. And right now, we're not realizing any revenue from the fire marshal position because most of the inspections, I shouldn't say most, a majority, if not all of the inspections I'm doing are strictly from C of O inspections where there is income from that, but I couldn't tell you what it is because it's a portion of whatever's left from the cost of McKenna.
And just in my experience, Captain, obviously, if it gets to a point where a business is not complying with the fire code, there are violations we can pursue that cost money, right? Takes them to court, like our code enforcement program. Very similar, I think.
Correct. There are, in my position currently, I'd say there's a lot of opportunity cost where the more I try to follow up and stay with businesses, the less time I have to do captain responsibilities. So it's the entire package of the fire marshal position is I am doing C of O inspections, I am doing follow-up with them the best I can, but unfortunately, it's not the high priority for me. But we're working as best we can to try to get these businesses inspected. I've had pretty good feedback from them about availability. I give them my cell phone number. They call me 24 hours a day with questions. So we are trying to make them notice a difference between when a city employee is doing inspections versus a third party that's only available 1 to 2 days a week. We make ourselves readily available. And yesterday I was dealing with a business trying to open. They had a pretty significant deficiency with their kitchen hood system, And we had to come up with a solution so that they could open on Monday like they had planned. Otherwise, they were going to be set back 3 to 4 weeks based on timelines that were given to me by the suppression company and our fire consultant.
I love that you asked that question. I think that when I hear you, though, talk about, more time and follow-up and second notice and the fees going up and then potential lawsuit or their litigation to collect on the fees, and then I'm just hearing more money, more time, more money, more time. To me, that just adds additional costs on top of the additional costs that we're already talking about approving with a PA 33 reduction this year.
But for what it's worth, I raise it just to
But I hear
point
you.
out. Just to
It was a
point
good
out-
try.
No, just to point out
Yeah.
that there will be some revenue
Yes.
generation
Yeah.
to offset some of the difference. I'm not advocating either position. I
Right.
just don't want that left unsaid.
Yeah.
It's not like the position exists and then there's nothing changing in revenue generation. Not to mention, those inspection fees sound a little bit light. Maybe they haven't been adjusted for inflation in a long time. But there's a lot of different moving parts to fire marshal inspections and the role.
I want the inspections to happen. I don't want to have to use that new fire truck that we have either.
Well, and that's the goal, is
Get
to
it.
compliance, and so that the buildings are safe, the people are safe, that we're safe, the citizens are safe, and that we understand and know what exactly is in these buildings, and is it, do they have the materials in there that this building is rated for? I mean, that's what we're going for. I mean, certainly the fees are part of it, and that is part of, the cost of doing business, and part of gaining compliance and things like that. But our goal is the safety of the residents, the businesses, and our staff when something happens there, or to prevent it altogether, ideally.
Well, and I just want to, kind of pull a Patrice and just make sure that the residents understand that when we are adding things like this, we have to pay for them.
Yes.
Councilmember Odell.
Since you guys have gone to the 12s, help me understand on the fire side, you said how many fire PSOs do we have that are dedicated to the fire department?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
How many officers are
So
currently?
all 30 sworn officers are also firefighters.
Right.
Additionally, we have 6 firefighter medics and 2 firefighter EMTs, and 10 paid on calls.
And the sergeant position would be the supervisor above the 6 firefighters and 2 paramedics.
That's correct. Their primary responsibility would be in the fire division. Of course, they're still PSOs as well. And so they have enforcement authority, of course, and they would also have command authority when it comes to fire scenes and incident command type situations. And they would have that additional fire officer training, which is more so than the PSOs. All of the supervisors will have that.
And then the direct supervisors, you, Captain Gillis, you're the one that kind of makes sure that they're running their ship.
Correct.
currently
I would
day-to-day.
oversee the entire fire division, but the sergeant would be that kind of first layer supervision where they're not coming to me saying, can we go buy truck wash so we can wash the fire trucks?
Right.
They would just be able to go to that first line supervisor and say, we're going to jump in the ambulance and go pick something up. Whereas right now, they come down and find me or text me. It's, like I said, it's nothing I don't mind supervising. I'm a pretty good supervisor. It just comes down to, could someone else be better served in that position so I can have more time to not be distracted from doing captain responsibilities, which are pretty important, in my opinion.
So would you say the way it's structured right now, that they're not running as efficiently on the fire side as they should be with training and everything? I mean, I understand, the sergeant position is going to alleviate that, but what I'm saying is it is right now, is it running, it's not running as well as it should be.
They are getting a lot of right now of trust but verify. I am trusting that they're doing their chores. I'm not going out there and on Monday morning and checking the floor to make sure it's been washed.
Okay.
I might get a complaint that says, hey, the floor is dirty, and then I'm like, well, I don't know if they washed it on Monday or not. I assume they did because they're good employees. They know what their rules are. They know what their responsibilities are. They just don't have that person that's able to continually kind of check up on what they're doing and have that accountability with them.
And make sure they're on track for their trainings and stuff. I mean, to give the full attention that it really needs.
Correct. I feel like I'm kind of doing that juggling act where things get set aside where there's some kind of impromptu inspection I need to go take care of. So whatever I had planned just gets scuttled for the rest of the day or until I can get back to it.
And this kind of concerns me because a few years back, we had somebody who was trying to be an assistant city manager, a recreation director, three or four things at once, and none of them were getting done well to do that. So I see the need for this position. It makes sense, and it just got to. I agree, though. We got to see with the budgeting process. It's better to do it all in one shot, in my opinion. But I don't like that side not having. I mean, I know they're all trained to be firefighters if they need to, but I feel like it's not being, by the sounds of it, not being run as good as it can. You're doing the best you can with the time that you have available, but when you don't have somebody there all the time, making sure it's being well run, that's cause for problems and inefficiencies and things of that nature. So that's all I have.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take a stab at this. The fees, can you go through those fees that you're currently charging? I think it started with $35.
Yes, so the fee for a building under 20,000 square feet is $35. 20,000 square feet to 100,000 square feet is $125, and over 100,000 square feet is $175.
Just a question, because I am familiar with fee settings somewhat. How long does a under 20,000 square foot building take to inspect? Does it take more than 5 minutes?
I was in one the other day that took me 15 minutes, and I was in one today that I was there for almost 45 minutes.
Okay, so at $35, we're barely running out, leaving the parking lot with the equipment and your time. So the fee should, as Mr. Donald said, the fee should reflect the cost of performing the service, generally speaking.
Correct.
It's
And
not
you're-
going to be a, one that's 45 minutes, it's an average kind of situation, but.
Correct, and I would say that a sergeant fire marshal is cheaper than a captain fire marshal.
True. And so all of these costs are all of these fees are unlikely to cover the cost of an inspection at the present time. So it's something we should look at.
It could be evaluated, yes. I
Yep.
wasn't probably in a position with my knowledge of what a solid fee schedule would be based on my lack of experience.
That's why we have finance departments, so they can help do a time study and figure that out. And the main thing is that this is something that someone comes to us and says, I want to occupy this building, or I need an inspection. It's not something that the taxpayer should necessarily subsidize because it needs a specific request for a specific service that we offer. So that's something that I'd like to see us look at down the road, like in the next few months. Secondly, I remember GOO. I went to that site or near that scene that night. I don't want to see something like that. Is a fire marshal position a way to help? We can't eliminate all risk, but does it help to reduce risk when we know what's in those buildings?
That's exactly it. It's pre-planning, it's risk reduction, it's a matter of safety, it's a matter of looking at these buildings, these structures, and knowing what the rating is through the training and education, and knowing what the building is rated for, what a particular business is bringing in, are there hazardous materials, are there explosives, what is it, and can this building handle that, are they allowed to have these sorts of things? Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of knowledge that the captain has been working on gaining over the last year and a half or 2 years, really, since he's gotten promoted, to try to learn these things so that we can greatly reduce our risk for something like GOO happening. I mean, there's no way to know 100%. I go into your building today and everything is on the up and up. I leave and then you bring everything in the back door. We would never know if something nefarious like that was happening. But this pre-planning allows us to get in the building, see what it looks like inside, and actually maintain records of what we think or what we know this building looks like inside. So in the event that something happens, because you're not going to be able to eliminate everything always, that would be a perfect world and we don't live in it. But we would have an idea of what's in there and what our strategy would be to knock that down as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing is, I agree with others. I'd like to know what the net cost of this would be. Right now, we have this position where we could move somebody over from an existing sergeant position into this, and then move someone up from PSO to, be a sergeant, but that still would be an extra PSO position or an extra sworn officer position. Is that, then that would be 30 versus 29. Would that be correct, or am my math off on that?
It's 30, and we have 30 including me. If we are going to take the officer that is the fifth person on this one platoon and slot him, for the sake of argument, there, then we've got 4 across the board, and we're not replacing anyone. It's the difference between the PSO salary and the sergeant,
Okay.
is what we're over. If we were looking to replace that PSO, then they would be the cost of that, of a whole new sergeant position.
Okay. Whether we move forward tonight or not, I would like to see that as part of the budget. Can keep that on there. And I will pass now to Councilmember Baranski if she has some additional comments.
Yep, I did. You might have answered it, and I forgot to write it down. When will we officially have that fifth person sitting there, ready?
He's in the fire academy now, so he's already been through the police academy. He's in the fire academy. He graduates, I would imagine, in May.
He'll be ready at the end of May.
But is he ready? Does he still have to do field training off?
He comes back in the beginning of May, and then he finishes his FTO, and he'll be ready to hit the road on his own end of May.
Okay, so to me, that's the logical time to then, because if we do it before then, we're also going to incur overtime because we're pulling someone from one of the platoon.
As I tried to mention earlier, we're not looking to do this position immediately. I have
okay.
told the director I am more than happy to continue with the responsibilities of fire marshal until the captain's position is settled.
Perfect. So I
We
think,
know that's not going to be anytime soon.
so I think based on, it seems like a strong
They
consensus.
just wanted to bring it to our attention because
Yeah.
it does need to be filled.
Yeah, because that's not what's on the agenda. But that's not what you wrote. That's not what we were
I didn't write it on
told.
the agenda. Oh, I thought you meant, okay, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
not you. So I think that if you come back, you get, the information that has been requested about the finances, and then it's part of the budget, it almost literally, it's perfect timing, right? Like, he
Right.
comes back the end of May, we are doing our budget, it becomes a budgeted item, whether it's a sergeant or a PSO is reflected in the budget, and guess what? Boom. July 1st, guess what you have? To me, that's what seems to make sense. We get our questions answered, we do our due diligence financially, we plan ahead for the potential additional expenses, if any, there might be none. And then you know that it's in works. And you can help us help you, right? Does that seem like a consensus?
Yeah, what I would like to do, though, is make sure that we've got all the potential questions that you might think of tonight so that they can go away and answer those questions. I have one, which is, what is the cost differential?
Yep.
Is that clear to you? What's the difference between a sergeant PSO and the net? Okay. What other things would you like to know? Council.
I think it just really comes down to the budget, because I don't have a problem with it at all. I just want to know that going into, I want it to be, I think it good timing being in May, because then we're doing, May and June, and we're doing our budget discussions, so that we can add that in there, see how it affects the bottom line, and see where we're going, because I know you also want to promote a captain. So I know that's, so we're going to be, kind of be doing this ladder thing. So eventually, we are going to have to replace a PSO. Because if you're moving a sergeant up, so you're going to move a sergeant up to a captain, right? A PSO to a sergeant. So that's going to probably leave a vacancy somewhere along the lines. So you're going to have another one to add in there.
Well,
So-
that's where we were discussing this person that's in the academy is the extra one there. So,
So that is the succession
right,
this time. Okay, unless anybody else goes crazy and decides to leave and retire and all the other nonsense. Okay, well, but I think then that's more reasonable because we won't have
We
that.
do have a +1 that's in FTO program right now, of the 2 we are allowed to hire that were extra.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, because you guys need to have that, because there's so much training that goes into your position, that it takes so long, that you do have to have that person in the wings. And it's good to have that person anyway, because, again, injuries happen, illness happen, God knows everybody's getting the flu, 60 bazillion flus out there, and just life and vacation, and you've got to have that
we have
position.
somebody that's
Right.
light duty now for months.
Right,
So,
exactly.
I
So
mean,
you've
that's a
got to have
shortage.
that person. So I'm totally fine with that part. But if you guys can wait and, as we're doing this budget, because we are starting obviously that tonight. So if there's any way you can wait just a few more months, I think that would be super beneficial to everybody. Just so we can make sure we don't have to do
I
budget.
just want to make sure it
matches.
stays top of our mind, right? I want to make sure they bring the numbers to us, right? I mean,
I'm slapped, along with every other
right,
department.
everything else. No, exactly.
Not to dissuade this, but
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
my thing is filled with DPW complaints this week, so like, and it's not because you're doing a bad job, it's because it snowed.
Because there's so much going on.
the
Because everybody
priority-
forgets what happens in Michigan when it snows.
I have a light from City Manager Levin, please.
I just wanted to make sure that you guys are on the same timetable as far as the budget goes. So actually, department heads are already working on their budget worksheets. They're due to me by the end of the month, and I'll be meeting with
Perfect.
them in March, and we actually have our budget hearing in April. So you're going to have that information
Awesome.
with all of
like
the
that.
numbers and everything come April.
Is that something you can work with?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
yes, we weren't, like the captain's already alluded to, we weren't looking to make that person step into the position tomorrow.
Okay.
We understand that there's going to be a delay. But this is something that is persistent, and it has been persistent certainly since I got here. It's been on the forefront of my mind. We have discussed it before, and it hasn't gone away. And if anything, fairly recent events have brought the necessity really into the limelight more so than ever, because these things are out there and it's a reality. It's, not something that we should continue to ignore or hide or try to fill the gaps. I mean, this is a public safety interest.
Thank you. Any other, we can move on to 7H then, I think. All right, item 7H, DPS portable radio purchase request.
So the DPS last bought portable radios in 2007, and there's only a certain shelf life for all of technology, and certainly the radios. And these are things that are used every single day by the officers all the time. And so they are very durable and they are rugged, but they don't last forever. And currently, we're using a Motorola product. We've known now, and in the wings is going to be statewide or county upgrade of the radios. They haven't come up with all the details in the planning for what the radios will need to look like. However, we do know that encryption is going to be part of it. And so the county is not ready to say, hey, these are the radios that we are going to go to, because there are policies that they have in place, as well as some of the state law mandates, that being the encryption, that are coming down the pipeline. So we've known for some time that, and I've talked to the city manager about this, that radios are going to be a necessity, that we're going to be having to bear the expense, and it's going to be very expensive. These radios are not cheap. But we're trying to limp the radios we have along as long as possible until the county tells us what the new radio mandates are going to be, so that when we make the purchase, we're fulfilling the requirements. We don't want to buy something ahead of time. So as time has gone on, we've hired some more people in the fire division. The radios have reached their shelf life. The hardware is breaking. We're unable to fix them. The technology is not supported. And so we need a stopgap now to get us to when the big radio purchase is going to happen, which I think is going to be in 2 or 3 years. But they're still working out the bugs there. So Captain Gillis has done the research on that and has come up with a radio that we believe is going to support, well, we don't believe, we know it's going to support. He's already done the research with the county. And we're asking for 10 radios now. They are very expensive. They come with a 5-year warranty. And these radios will come with encryption. We're asking for Motorola, which is what we have now, so they're compatible with what we already have. And we have other Motorola systems. And so we're asking to purchase 10 radios now, so that all of our EMS personnel will have radios that work. We don't have any spares, we have no extras, and we don't have enough. So that's where the number 10 came from. That will get us, we hope, to when the county decides what the final product is going to be, and these will be compatible with that.
Thank you. Councilmember Baranski.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of 10 Motorola 6,700/800 model radios, including the 5-year warranty and the one-time programming fee from the ambulance account in the amount of $66,676.40.
Second. All right. Motion by Councilmember Baranski, second by Mayor Lesich. Any questions from council? Any questions from the audience? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. You got your new radios. Thank you. Item 7I, DPS succession planning and promotional testing for captain.
Yeah, so again, it goes back to the conversations that we've been having. Initially, I thought I was just going to be coming up here to ask for the cost of running a promotional test for captain, but it looks like I have to step back and make sure that we're able to promote to that position. So in my naivete, I was thinking that, the position is vacated, I will just fill it, but, so I apologize for my ignorance. So really, I guess I'm asking the council to allow me to maintain that captain's position. We have two. We have Captain Gillis, who's over the fire division, and we have Captain Bitsby now, who runs a great deal of the operations on the police side, and he is slated to retire this year. So in accordance with our subcommittee discussions and our succession planning, we are wanting to run a promotional exam for the sergeants who are eligible to get a list going so that when Captain Bisbee leaves later this year, we already know who will be in place to take that position. That's another reason, just to backpedal just a little bit, for the fire marshal. We don't want to put someone in the fire marshal position and then they test for captain and they get promoted to captain, then we've got this issue. So we needed to wait at least until that was settled before we moved on that, regardless. So typically the testing process has been for the department a written test, and EMCO is the company that we've used, and along with an oral board, and you take those combined scores along with, points for seniority or what have you, come up with a score, get a list together, and those are the people, whoever passes, this is the list, and then you promote from that list. What's before you is a request to purchase an EMCO testing for an assessment center as opposed to a written. It is more expensive because it's more in-depth. It is what many departments are using for higher-ranking positions. It is a better predictor, in my opinion, from personal experience and from speaking with other agencies around us, as well as with EMCO, of future success. It's more than just, here are the books, can you write a test. It's more interactive. I believe the council is familiar with it. I went through an EMCO process to get this position. So in keeping up with best practices, I felt that was the best way to go. I conferred with the two captains on their opinion, and after deliberation and conversation and meeting with the personnel at EMCO for a significant amount of time regarding this, it was our belief that we should ask to do the testing process for the rank of captain, and to use EMCO specifically, which is the company that we would be using even for the written test if we had chosen that, but to go with an assessment center. I will have 5 sergeants that will be eligible to test for the rank of captain come, April. And so in order to give them notice of the test, that's why we're before you today to ask for approval to go with an assessment center from EMCO to promote a sergeant to the rank of captain.
So tonight's request is just to approve EMCO? Is that?
Well, tonight's request is permission to fill the captain's position when it becomes vacant and to conduct an EMCO assessment center test so that the sergeant who is going to take that place is slotted on a list.
So there's two requests.
Correct.
One is to approve the
The promotion.
continuation of- Yeah.
And then the testing process.
All right, council, any questions? I would like to continue with two captains. I don't know how others feel, but I feel that's been working pretty well. Councilmember Baranski.
Yeah, I, again, wasn't present at the last meeting, so I don't know what was discussed, but we had a very specific agreement when we went to captains. It actually expires in June of 2025, and we made very specific business agreements to get the director here. And that comes at a cost. And it is an inexpensive cost. And I'm not saying I'm against continuing it, but circles back to what is the goal of council? If you want to keep PA 33, that is what would have to be done to continue two captains. Or cut elsewhere. So to me, this is putting the cart before the horse, because my goal was have this conversation and then go back and say, okay, we can do this or we can't do that. So that's, I don't have an opinion on it yet, because the cost is always a factor. We went a long time with just two at the top, years and years and years and years and years. It is very nice. We've seen great improvements by having three. We have a lot more secure on the fire side, things that we never touched before that benefit the community, benefit us as homeowners, but that comes at a cost. So for me, I wanted to see the costs and the budget implications and talk about alternatives versus continuation.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland.
I just want to say that I support your comments 100%, knowing what we went through during that time, and those negotiations, we were very calculated in what we were doing. So I think that it's too soon to vote on this and make this decision at this time.
Okay, which decision are we talking about? What,
To conduct the assessment center and just test someone even for captain without knowing whether or not we're going to maintain two captains.
okay. When would we need to know? When would we need to make a decision in order for you to have a good succession plan and not be rushed, and so that it's responsible?
Well, I mean, the more time, the better, of course, because while Captain Bisbee is here, if we know who it is that's going to take his place, he can begin working with them sooner rather than later. Excuse me. Getting them up to speed with all of the tasks and responsibilities that he has. He has not put in a letter, so I don't have a date for you. I mean, he's eligible to leave today, so he could call tonight and say, I'm never coming back. I don't anticipate that, but he has stated that he is going to be gone sometime in the fall. So I guess I can't put a time limit on that. I was coming today to see if we could get the assessment center process started, which wouldn't happen until at least April. Anyway, and that would be deliberate, and because that is how I could capture the biggest number of sergeants in the pool to have them tested, so that we could have them ranked and have decisions to make. So I don't have an answer for you. Does it have to be today? It doesn't. We're not testing until at least April, and so sometime between mid-April and beyond is when we would like to test to capture all the people that will be capturable, and do the test, get the scoring, and then get them up to speed, which a couple of months would be helpful.
Okay, when you say capturable, you mean the existing 6 sergeants? Or
There are seven.
Seven.
There are
Seven, I'm
seven sergeants. 5 of the 7 will be eligible to test in April.
Okay. So we would not have a test until April, but you'd
Correct.
like to give them notice, do they study for this test? Is there-
Well, typically, we'd given 60 days for them to have books and study. There isn't anything in the contract that says specifically they have to have 60 days. It is it's in Act 78. But the assessment center is a different process, so they don't have books that they have to study. Do you know do we still need to provide the 60 days? That I'm not sure on.
Well, there's a reasonable, they need some time to
Correct.
prepare if they wish to, right?
Correct. And we've given 60 days in the past when we're doing a different
Okay.
sort of testing. So, in my head, that's kind of,
We'd want to, because we'd want them to pass. It's a
Absolutely.
very,
Yes.
very hard test. Only one person passed last time, and he's
well, the written and oral board is, yes.
very
Yes.
hard.
Of course, I'm asking for an assessment center, not that, but regardless, they need notice.
Okay, we got lots of lights here, just the time frame. Once you test, so let's say that the test is done in May, and then you have oral boards and other things, then what is the rest of the process, and how long does that approximately take?
The process is pretty quick once the testing happens. I mean, MCO conducts the test, we are hands-off on that, they do the whole thing, and then they give us the ranking.
Okay,
So it's pretty immediate. The results are immediate.
and then you have an oral board, or is that MCO does that also?
MCO does the entire test.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'll move on to, I don't know who was first, I think it was Councilmember Stein.
Yes. So I feel very strongly about keeping the captains. Like you said, everything's been running amazing. I've only been in this seat for a year and a half, so I can only speak at that. But, and I understand where Mayor Pro Tem's coming from about the PA 33. That is something that we're going to really have to look at in keeping if we do want these captains. But I just want to say I'm very, we really need to talk through that PA 33 then and see where is important. So.
Okay. Councilmember Odell.
So is this MCO training or testing, would it help you also determine for the fire sergeant position? I mean, does that give you like an inkling to help make the decision for that
Well,
position as well? Or are they
Not
completely
not
unrelated?
necessarily. They're not really related, but what that will do is tell us who not to put in the fire marshal position.
So
right,
it
like,
kind of serves
so-
a dual purpose for.
Well, I don't want to
if-
put
if
someone
we
in the
go that
fire
route.
marshal position and then they test for captain and they're the one that gets promoted to captain and now we've wasted that time having them there and it's been moot.
You want the captain.
So we'd
kinda
like to
decide.
have that,
Yeah.
that question settled first before we move that fire marshal into position. But we've discussed tonight that hopefully when that happens, that's going to be in the next budget year. So we wouldn't be doing that till July. But it would be good to have these things in place now, or at least let us know we can figure out who it's going to be so that we can get training that person for the position that they are going to assume.
And is there, I'm not familiar with this type of testing at all, so is there like a time frame this testing is good for? Like once they take it, does it expire after a certain?
Is it a year? Is it 2
I'm
years?
not sure.
Yeah, the testing is good for 2 years, so it's the same as a sergeant. So we ran the test for sergeant.
All the sergeants that want to go for the captain and,
So there's two PSOs on the sergeant list, so we have 2 people to choose from to promote to sergeant when we promote, or when we move a current sergeant over to the fire marshal position. We don't have a captain's list established. We have 2 captains, no list, so this will establish a captain's list. We'll run that. Presumably, all 5 of the eligible sergeants will take the test, and they will be ranked 1 through 5. And then I have the decision between the top 2 of who I would put in that position.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any desire to make a motion on this? Or
I have
yes,
one more.
Councilmember Bransky.
For our city attorney, and I meant to ask you ahead of time. Do we know if there was legislation introduced at the end of last year that would require the city, it's a little bit outside your realm, but I think I know where you know where I'm going, to, as a matter of collective bargaining, talk about staffing limits? And do we know what happened with that, such that we would lose right now, staffing is at the discretion of the director, thank you. Do we know what happened with that legislation? Because I would like to know that too, because if we make moves and then that legislation gets implemented, we may then have to add bodies that then we have to pay for, even though we made these voluntary moves. That was something I meant to look into, and I didn't get a chance to see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer for you. I remember there was a flurry of legislation last year about collective bargaining and union rights and different changes to the law. Off the top of my head, I don't have those summarized in my head, so I can't remember if that was one of them, but it is worth looking into.
Yeah,
That was the one about minimum staffing.
right.
Yeah, I don't,
I believe that was for full-time union fire departments, which we are not.
okay.
Yeah, it was reported to me through my work that it would impact everyone. So that's why, and I don't know. So I just, being in command now, you can appreciate the risk that exists. So hopefully that's true, and I'm assuming it's probably going to not go anywhere, given the changeover. But everybody loves a fireman, so
Okay.
they might pass it.
Well, they're suing anyway. All the things that were passed in lame duck, they're suing.
Okay.
The former legislation of the state is now suing the current legislation of the state because they didn't pass the things that they were supposed to give to the governor, and then she supposedly did not get them, because that's one of the things that we're waiting on legislation for my work. So it's a hot mess
All right.
in true government fashion.
I'm just going to go ahead and make this motion to allow MCO testing for the rank of captain from the contractual services account, the amount of $9,275. Promote to the rank of captain when the vacancy occurs through the retirement of Captain Bisbee. Promote an officer to the rank of sergeant to fill this vacancy created through the previous promotion. Hire a PSO to fill the vacancy left by the promotion to sergeant.
Second it.
Can we get a roll call?
Well, we haven't, yeah, we have more.
There's a second, we're going to take a vote.
Yeah, we're not voting yet.
No, I know, but when we do.
Yes, absolutely. So, any comments from council? Other comments?
I just want, I need the numbers, because we are going, I think that's just a little premature. Not because I don't want it. I just want to state that. I think it's premature only because we need the numbers so that we know what we're doing with PA 33, because we're going into a budgeting session. So the timing is a little off, because I want to know what numbers we're looking at, and we're going to have the numbers, but obviously before June, as far as all that goes. So I'd rather have the numbers, because why are we going to spend money on testing when we don't know what money we have as far as everything else goes? So that's just my
Okay.
opinion.
I understand the question, but I guess where I'm coming from, and I'm the motion maker.
Yep.
Is that this is a policy decision that do we feel that we are working better with two captains and a director? Statements made here indicate that that is the case. I feel it's been working pretty well. So the question is, do we wait to, I'm not sure what the question is about how much money we have, because either we have a need for this position that we have to fund, or we're going to say we don't have the funds, so we can't have the position. My position is, I'm sorry to be redundant, is that this is a needed position and that we will and should fund it, just as we have been doing. So that's why I made the motion. We can take a roll call vote and see where things fall. Roll call vote, yeah. Oh, wait, anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
No.
Yes.
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 Not at this time.
Yes.
No.
Okay, that is 4-3. Mr. Denault. Tell me how this falls.
This is not an allocation of funds or any of the other that require 5 votes, so by 4-3, the motion has been adopted.
We are allocating $9,275 for the testing.
It's an expenditure, not a budgeting.
Okay, thank you. You have your answer.
And we don't need any of the stuff we answered. You answered it for us.
Okay. Thank you. Item number 7J, request to fill vacant staff positions. Our City Manager Levin.
All right, so you are all aware that our part-time senior activity center clerk has left her position. And I think it was maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago, we did approve a second part-time clerk over at the Senior Activity Center. So we're looking to backfill the other position from the person that had been there. We also had a resignation from our full-time building clerk and looking to backfill that position. In addition to that, I just want to kind of bring it to everyone's attention that we do have a lot of critical clerical or clerk roles in the city, and should we get to a position where anyone else leaves, it really puts us in a position where we fall behind considerably. We have some necessary duties that need to be done and really no way to get that work done. It is very helpful to be able to try and move quickly on filling some of these essential positions so that if we do have the opportunity to have a little bit more time, we can overlap an existing employee with someone that we're onboarding. So as a second part of this, I'm also asking if we can pass a motion to allow for backfilling the critical clerk positions.
Okay. I have a question for you. So in terms of directors and department heads and that, the council has always said, we want to weigh in on that where it's appropriate and where the charter says we can. As far as a budgeted clerical position as a part-time clerk in the recreation
full-time.
department, or full, okay.
Full-time, yeah.
In the senior, did I say building? I meant senior activities. So you have a part-time person. We recently added a second position there. The first person left, so this is really filling that second position for a second time in the last few months.
Yes,
Okay, and then the full-time building clerk, that's because Casey left.
correct.
Okay. And then the third question is, where is your city manager discretion in making these decisions between council meetings? And
Yeah, so ironically, we also just got a resignation from our part-time communications clerk. We have verbal, we don't have a written resignation from Starsha yet. It just puts us in a position where when these things happen, like right after a meeting, we would have to sit on it for at least 30 days before we can even consider it. And it just makes things much slower in the process for hiring. It typically takes between, I would say, a month to up to 3 months to hire someone because we have to go through an internal process first for posting, and then we have to go exterior, and then we go through the process of doing the interviews, which takes time, and then after that, we do pre-employment testing. Should someone fail that, then we have to go back several steps and take a look at other candidates, so it can take a great deal amount of time. So adding another 30 days to potentially come to council for approval to backfill a position makes it very difficult and challenging from the perspective of service to residents and businesses in the community.
okay, I've got several lights. Councilmember Baranski.
Yeah, I was just going to refresh the memories. I can't remember if you were a council member at that time, but I think you were. But we created a rule when we were going through all of our budget tightening that all positions, whatever they were, had to come before council. And the reason for that was to make sure we had that conversation about, is it needed versus wanted? Are there more efficient or less costly ways to do it, et cetera, et cetera? And we did a lot of evaluations from that. And I think this one probably just fell through the cracks, is my guess, because we did already reorganize, reassess, and you actually have been mindful of, rather than having one full-time that would actually cost more, having 2 part-timers actually covers you better and costs less. So for that reason, I would make a motion to approve the hirings as outlined in the packet.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is, well, there were 3, you want to do the second part after we do the
that's fine.
first? Okay. So the motion is to fill the part-time senior activity center clerk and full-time building clerk. Is that the motion?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Baranski, seconded by Councilmember Shornack. And then we have some more lights. Let's go with Councilmember Shornack. You had your light on.
I was Just going to approve that.
Councilmember Odell.
Yeah, I just feel that for these clerk positions and things like that, we're not in a cost-cutting environment as much now, as it was back when PA 33. I think it's better to give the city manager direction to fill these as they come available. They're already approved through the budget. The positions are already approved. It shouldn't take 3 months to fill a position, because if somebody happens to quit the day after a council meeting, you got to wait 30 days for the council meeting to get approved, then another 30 days to put the listing out, then hiring, and then training, and then the people that really suffer are our constituents and our residents, because they're not getting service. So I feel that going forward, that we do need to give the city manager the approval to handle the day-to-day HR activities of making sure the already approved budget positions are being filled in a timely manner, just to make her job easier. We're not talking department heads, we're not talking, legacy costs that weren't already budgeted to begin with. So that's just my thoughts on the matter.
Thank you. I kind of echo your thoughts, and these are positions that have been budgeted. We approved a budget last April or May, and so I intended those positions to be filled throughout the year. Somebody leaves, which is certainly within their right. That position still exists, and it should be filled. So I was here. I did certainly make some very difficult decisions regarding staffing, and I do recall that. I just think there's a point at which, if we've already made the policy decision to have that position and budgeted it, and the building clerk is paid for through building fees. It's not even a general fund cost. So I just think those positions should be filled through city manager discretion. Anything higher than that, anything higher than a union position that we've already budgeted for, I think would definitely come back or should be run by the council. But anyway, any comments from the audience? All in favor of filling the 2 vacant staff positions, say aye. Aye. All right, second part. How would you like us to proceed? This is your request, and then we'll get to Ms. Baranski in a second.
Yeah, so just looking for a motion to proceed with filling those essential front-end positions noted as they become vacant, if they do.
Okay, Councilmember Baranski.
And that's what I was going to make a motion to amend our prior motion to allow the city manager the discretion to fill positions that become vacant that have been previously budgeted and are not,
Exempt.
thank you, exempt or, that are union, right? That are not director, managerial positions.
So for example, if Mr. Barrett has somebody that quits tomorrow, would he have the authority would City Manager Levin have the authority to?
It would depend who quit. So if the supervisor, no.
Let's say if it's a laborer.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
So how do you
So
quantify?
you're expanding beyond what I'm asking for, which is our frontline clerks. We do have, we
about
do have
Basic.
previous understanding from a previous motion to backfill any of the part-time DPW positions. And then obviously department heads are a very different structure. That's something that comes to council for consideration. There are maybe several other positions that would be separate from this.
Okay.
Certainly full-time DPW would be separate from that.
So what about
Full-time public safety positions would be separate from that.
frontline clerks or entry-level positions? That you have discretion, if they've already been budgeted, to fill those positions if they become vacant during the calendar year.
That'd be perfect.
That's my motion.
Second.
I was going to say,
I was going to second it too.
We all agree.
yes.
Could you, as part of your weekly update, just outline which positions those are, so that
So
you
what-
tell us, and if we have a problem with that, we
Then we can amend. Yep.
I agree.
So when I work on the budget and we have the org chart, I think maybe that would be a good place to really highlight those positions in the org chart that we would be able to backfill without having to come get commission or council approval.
Sounds
Does that
good
sound
to
like a
me.
good plan?
I like it.
All right, any member of the audience like to speak on this? Anybody else on council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, it passes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, the power you
Motion
have.
by Councilmember Baranski, eeny, meeny, miny, Councilmember Shornack, I think. Okay, sorry about that.
So then
Totally fine.
that motion then addresses if you do get a written resignation. Okay, perfect.
I was just overwhelmed by the love in the room.
Support.
Support for this. All right, item 7K. Item 7K, this is the,
Fireworks.
yeah, I know, I'm looking for, approved 2025 fireworks proposal.
So we have the proposal from the
It moved.
fireworks company, Zambelli, and we're looking to do the same amount that we did last year from the city, which was 15,000. For the 15,000, we'll actually get a little bit more fireworks than what we had last year. They are planning on doing the fireworks on Sunday night again as well.
I just, should I press my button or can I just speak freely?
Yes, go, yes, please.
I just thought it should be something we should be discussed, something that should be discussed, because last year I remember I was not in favor of raising the cost. I mean, if it's 20, 30 minutes of fireworks, we can save 5, 10 grand. I think it could be, that money could be put to better use. So that was my issue of removing it from the consent. I mean, again, where is this leading? Next year is it 20,000, 25? Where did, we just keep spending money on fireworks. Additional fireworks.
There we go. Okay.
Go ahead.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your objection is to the amount?
Well, I thought it felt like it was shoot in there, so we would just approve it without discussion too. But yes, is it Lions is putting in 10,000? So we're putting in a little more, which I guess it's fine if you like fireworks. I just don't feel we need to keep increasing that amount. To, again, to what end? If we have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of fireworks, then it goes to, because I believe it was $1,000 a minute that was quoted last time, roughly. So 25 minutes, then it's going to be, 45 minutes, like, to me, after 5 or 10 minutes of fireworks, it's fine, it's done. Just have the finale and, what?
I disagree with you. I hate wasting money on fireworks.
So,
I
that's just
guess
my
I'm a party
thought.
pooper. I agree with you on this, 100%.
I'm sure I'm in the minority here, which is fine. I just
Yep.
wanted to bring
I'm
it
good with
to the
that, too.
attention.
I just kind of find it ironic in light of the last conversation where you didn't care about the budget, but that's okay. I'm going to make a motion to approve the fireworks.
We got, okay.
Oh, did someone make that motion?
No, not yet.
Oh, fireworks
We
as
have a
outlined in
second?
the packet.
No, that's fine.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Councilmember Odell, you had something to say.
No, I think, it's a lot of money for fireworks, I agree, but we have tens of thousands of people that come forward
I hear
every
you.
year,
I get it.
and our city doesn't really have a lot of, program offerings, so I think it's the one big event that everybody goes, and I know, I see you there every year.
I'm there. No,
So-
and you don't have to try to convince me or change my
I
mind.
know,
I'm
I know,
just-
and the people are on different sides of the fence with fireworks, but I think it's a great family event that's, offset by the cost of the Lions Club that they put on, that the city gets reimbursed for all the other expenses that are incurred to make that happen. So I think it's a good partnership to consistently put on a quality program with very little money in retrospect. But I'm fine with it the way it is. I think people noticed the difference in the show last year and were happy. But it's personal preference thing. Some people are fireworks people, some people aren't, but you hear them on July 4th, that's for sure. So I think a lot of people like them, but I second the motion and love to keep it the way it is.
Okay, Councilmember Sutherland.
So Councilmember Baranski just said that she finds this very ironic, and I want to make sure that I spell out why this is ironic in case it's not clear. So we pulled this out of the consent agenda to have a conversation about potentially spending, what, $15,000 on fireworks over and above the $10,000 that the Lions Club is going to put in, right?
I wasn't suggesting we don't pay anything.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying we're having a discussion
Yes,
over the amount
absolutely.
of $15,000.
Yep.
However, the majority of council just voted to approve to spend $9,275 to test for captains. That one captain will cost the city potentially, including benefits and salary, around $300,000 a year without knowing or having any metrics as to whether or not that's actually needed. So I just think it's ironic that we're having a conversation and we're so worried about $15,000 when we're potentially spending $310,000 on something we don't even know for sure if we need because we feel like things are better. That to me is madness.
Thank you. And just a couple things for you, Councilmember Perry. Elaine and I, when we were working through the agenda, she said, do you want this in there or not? And I'm going to make sure that when we spend $15,000, I'm going to make sure it's not in there. That's
fine.
And what I wanted, two parts. One is duly noted, and I agree with you, because it was like, but in the future, those will be. And the second thing is about the consent agenda. It's very easy. If all you have to do, if you ever want to remove something from the consent agenda, any member of council can just say, I'd like to remove item 7B and add it to the regular agenda. There's no motion.
Okay.
There's no nothing. It just happens.
Okay.
So just so you know that that's not a big deal to me. And it's, I've done it before, and it's always, if you want more scrutiny, we can
I
certainly
just
do that.
wanted to say my piece, that's it.
Yeah, and in the future, also, when we get the draft agenda, if you feel that would be better moved, let her
Okay.
know, and that will happen. Correct? Yeah. All right. I think we have any other discussion on the fireworks? All right, motion by Councilmember Baranski, seconded by Councilmember Odell, to approve the 2025 fireworks proposal. And then your turn, citizen. Come on in.
Okay, the name is Ray Wojciechowski from Fraser Senior Housing. Fireworks I've always liked. Basically, you got to realize I'm 82 years old, and I still remember when I was 5 years old, I lived near the Bel Air Drive-In in Van Dyke 8 Mile area, and still remember the fireworks, as a 5-year-old kid. So fireworks are always great for me. But then there's a new technology that's been going on lately, and I've heard people that have seen it, with the fireworks, and that is related to the drones, where they have the drones instead of the fireworks. And some people told me it's really fantastic when you see how they make these drones go up and down. I know nothing about the drones. I know nothing about how much they cost. I know nothing about that or how long the show would be. But this might be something to check out in the future. So that's where I stand on that. From a 5-year-old who loved fireworks to a 82-year-old who says, hey, maybe let's go with drones. I don't know.
You're a forward thinker.
Yes.
We did
whatever.
I did actually throw that idea out there last year to the city manager, and she looked into it, and it was like $150,000 for a 25-minute show. And they would be hovering over houses in our neighborhood, which may not be the best thing if they fall.
Okay, that I did not know.
But we did look at it, 'cause I think they're pretty cool, so.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, passes 5-2. Perry and Shornack, no. And I'll make sure in the future, I apologize, not specifying who voted no. All right, and then now city manager report, I believe. Report of city administration.
Right, we're going to be having the survey for the DIA mural on the Senior Activity Center building rolling out soon. So we'll have that open until March 2nd. We should be able to push that out into our digital media channels and get some flyers around the office and other locations. We're working on the demo of the Rindell building. Very fortunate to hear that there was no asbestos on the site. Hoping to have it down by the end of the month. The library, we have the closing documents, waiting to finalize all the signatures for that and looking to close tomorrow afternoon on the library building. So thanks to Don and all of his efforts trying to get this pushed forward. I think that we definitely are going to be moving forward with some good plans there. So thank you, everyone, for all your help on that. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to report.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions for the city manager? All right. We will now move on to report of mayor and council. Councilmember Perry.
Yeah, actually, I have two things today. First, Rob, so I had a resident reach out to me concerned about snow plowing and what's the difference between not residential, primary and secondary streets. Would you be able to explain that for people that are wondering why their streets aren't being done, or?
They are, they're just,
Listen, I'm just reporting what
I know.
I'm getting asked.
They're on the back burner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I can do this on the fly, but I've been putting a lot of thought into our snow policies. Based on historical information I have in 16 or 17, BJ and Nick switched to just doing the primary routes, if it's 3 inches or under, and then all the streets if it's over 3 inches. And the primary routes are going to be all your thoroughfares, your main streets. We just reached out and found a couple extra bus routes that we didn't know about from Fraser schools. And I'm currently not available for publishing yet, but working on a map identifying all these so we can, once we iron out the policy, we can put this out in front of the public with council's approval after we finish the policy and make sure they know what the plan is.
Okay. All right, thank you. My second question is, I've had another resident reach out to me about expanding his driveway. This started last fall. I think he's gone to the planning commission and they haven't given, I don't want to guess what they did, but it hasn't been resolved yet. All he wants to do is expand his driveway to accept a third car.
We're working
And
on that.
I know it's coming, I believe, right? But
coming.
he's having a hard time even just, with McKenna, I believe, they're giving him kind of multiple answers and not clear, concise answers. And if I can go a little further, this gentleman lives on a street, and I think he said there's 11 or 12 other residences that have this exact same thing he wants, a third slab kind of going along the side of his house. And I believe McKenna told this gentleman, you need to have a side entrance in order to facilitate that extra slab. And some of these residents don't have a third or a side entrance. So it seems kind of silly that we're stopping people from putting a extra slab on their driveway if they have multiple cars. I mean, a lot of people work out of their garage or store stuff in their garage. They don't have room for their vehicles in their garage. So I just hope we would address that somehow, if that has to go before the planning, or does it come to us, zoning? I'm not sure.
Well, I can tell you, it did come up in the last planning commission meeting, because zoning was canceled, planning commission, and they are publishing a public hearing for next month to discuss this. The members of the planning commission went through some ideas. They decided not to make any changes until the public came and gave them some more ideas. Then they could put it all together and mark up a change to the ordinance if they so choose. But that is in the works for March. I don't have the date on me.
That's okay.
We can get it to you.
Okay.
It's going to be published and posted.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could add to
Yes,
that,
please.
McKenna, through Lauren Sayer, our city planner, has prepared different iterations of a plan for helping with this, I guess you'd call it a need or a want in the city. And I have gone through those drafts with her, given her feedback, helped her expand, and worked on some different ideas. Those ideas, as August mentioned, were presented to the Planning Commission this past month, and it is moving forward, and that's how any amendment to the zoning ordinance has to work. It has to go through Planning Commission first and public hearing process. Once they have a recommendation for all of you, that ordinance will be brought to you on an agenda, and you will have the same opportunity to give those thoughts again and tell us what we did right, what we did wrong, what you want fixed, what you don't, and then that ordinance will get adopted at some point with changes that help alleviate these requests.
Okay, thank you.
What is the time frame for something, or an ordinance coming before the council?
Sure, it's all dependent on how the next planning commission meeting goes. If they ask us to come back the following month with more changes or different ideas, that's one delay that could happen, but assuming they don't, then if it's on the March agenda, you would see it at your April city council meeting.
If they mark up and make a recommendation.
If they make, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, if they don't have any changes for us, yep.
All right. Ms. Shornack,
No, I'm sorry.
There's very good conversation. If you watch the planning commission meeting, you'll hear all the ideas. It's beyond just that, there's all kinds of other issues that they're
Okay.
discussing, so.
I'm just giving him the 411.
Yep.
Because I'm a big proponent for that, as Mr. Denault will tell you.
but share it with the rest of us, so we're all more knowledgeable. So it looks like it could come back in April for council consideration.
Okay,
I don't know
great.
if you caught that, so.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Stein.
I don't have much this evening. Only thing I wanted to do is thank everybody that came out to the Blue Jean Ball that we just had this past Saturday. It was a great success, so I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Baranski.
I just want to thank the DPW. I was out very early this morning shoveling, and I had to go to the store to get some salt or whatever. And the DPW was already out doing courts. The main streets were already done. They were coming back through across the city. And they now only have 10 employees, I think. And so they're doing a yeoman's job. It is a thankless job. Things do get missed. Streets, they think they did something, they didn't do it. So please call, please reach out to us. I forwarded emails that I've gotten. We're working to try to make it more efficient and more effective. But today was amazing. By 10 a.m., everyone's like, why did they not have school? But that's a different.
I was like that the first thing.
I agree. I think the roads were great.
I don't even know why they canceled school.
Yeah. So
We're
I was
making
just
a weekend
impressed to see all of the courts, all of the secondary streets being done so early, because I think you made a really smart decision by when you started to plow, as opposed to in years past where they would just run 24/7 and run out of steam. So great job.
Councilmember Shornack.
Okay, so the Historical Commission will be having their Easter sale on March 2nd and an open house. They're also selling a lot of glassware at reduced costs, so they wanted everybody to know that. This year, we are going to be celebrating the 150th anniversary. There'll be way more to come. August, did you get the thing about the proclamation?
Yes.
Okay, good, because we have other things to discuss after that, but that.
Well, I was waiting for my upload.
Okay, good. Which I will need you with that as well, Rob. And then also, the VFW is having their spaghetti dinner on Wednesday, the 26th. So definitely get out and support the VFW. And then we did get an email from a resident with regards to adding pickleball to the tennis courts. However, if memory serves right, we did vote on doing the tennis courts again, did we not, to repair the tennis courts? I thought, didn't we have that discussion?
We're looking at them. I don't know that we.
I thought we,
Yeah, we never did it.
okay, well then perhaps maybe we need to get that back, because I know they're kind of in disrepair anyway, and we were discussing it anyway. I remember we were having a long discussion about that. And at that point, obviously, because that's just paint, so we can just add that to the pickleball, or whatever, pickle courts, whatever.
Pickleball.
Thank you, whatever, I don't play it. But I know it's, pickle courts, whatever the heck. But if we can add that, since we are going into the budget, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because we are going into budgeting, because we know it is in disrepair. And again, doing the pickleball courts is just paint, correct?
He wants to have shorter nets. It's not a lot, though. It's just modification.
To regular tennis?
Correct.
Okay, because I want still people to have regular tennis, because I still see people out there playing regular tennis. Or maybe we just kind of have one court regular tennis, one court pickleball, I don't care, but kind of making everybody, but since we have it there, I would like that added to our agenda. Rob, if you could get costs together for that, for us, that would be great coming into the budget season, because I know we do have some upkeep to do on that and some repairs. So I just wanted to bring that up to you since that gentleman did reach out about it. And since it must be a thing, it's obviously a thing.
All set?
I believe, yeah, that's it.
All right, Councilmember Odell.
Just echo with what Councilmember Stein said. It was at the Blue Jean Ball. It was a great attended event, and everybody had a great time. And we raised more than ever, so it was a good event. So that's all I have for this week. Just appreciate the town coming out year after year and supporting Fraser First.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland.
So I have a handful of things that I would like to talk about. The first thing is I wanted to provide a little bit of context on my no vote for the parking lot at DPW. I understand that it's down to dirt, gravel, but for me, part of it is that it was delayed because of the fuel pump installation, and I still have a visceral reaction to the fact that we put a fuel pump in there and paid, I think it was around $275,000 to install a fuel pump at the DPW yard in a city where residents already are very vocal about the number of gas stations that we have. I find it a little bit ridiculous that the city needs its own private gas station. I think that there were other options available, such as fleet accounts at one of our many existing gas stations, as well as possibly the potential purchase of EV vehicles to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, which other cities and organizations have been doing. I've been seeing decorated Mustang Mach-E electric vehicles all over the place. So I wanted to provide that context. The other thing I wanted to talk about was that I attended the Future of Fraser open house on January 28th. I think, and Ms. Levin, correct me if I'm wrong, there was about 17 people who attended that Future of Fraser open house. In my opinion, that's pretty poorly attended. And I understand that people have a lot to do. Everyone's very busy. I don't know if the survey is still available online. No, it's closed. There were very important decisions and opinions that were, or not decisions, but opinions being given at that open house. And some of those were things like whether or not adult daycare homes or even daycare homes for children would be allowed in certain residential areas in the city. And as someone who has had her children in a residential daycare in the city, that was wonderful. The fact that it appeared like the majority of the opinion on those boards of the 17 people who attended were that they would not want to allow residential in-home child daycares in the city. In addition to, I am a caregiver for my uncle who is 64 years old, and he's schizophrenic and manic depressive, and we have had to put him in adult daycare, and he's been in group homes before also. So the fact that there was a lot of dots also next to those where they would not be allowed in the city, or the opinion was that they should not be allowed in the city, again, had a visceral reaction to that. It actually made me tear up a little bit, especially from a city who's worked so hard to spend over $1 million to build an inclusive park for those with special needs, that it would be the opinion of the 17 people who attended that meeting that those with special needs can come and play in our park, but if you need a safe place to go at a group home during the day, we don't want you in Fraser. That's the opinion that I got from those dots on that board, and it made me very upset. So I encourage you, if you have other thoughts on the future of Fraser, that you reach out to all of us on council. Please share your opinions with us, because we need to know what you want this city to look like 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, because those decisions are being made today. And then, I know I've kind of already touched on this also, but just very disappointed that the majority of council voted to spend a little over $9,000 of taxpayer money without strategic thinking on metrics as to whether or not a captain was actually needed. There was a lot of thought and planning put into that role. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm saying that I don't think that we have all of the information that we need at this time to make that decision. And that's no judgment or opinion on anyone doing the role. I think that our public safety does a great job, but, you know, we did, as a council, make the decision to reduce PA 33. If you want captains, if you want your streets plowed, if there's an inch of snow, if you want all of these things, we have to pay for it. So we cannot reduce taxes and then ask for all of these things without having all of the information first, and that's exactly what happened here tonight. The other thing is, coming into budget season, I just wanted to put this out there to council to let everyone know that it was on my mind. The senior housing has not had an increase in rent since 2017. I was just wondering if it would be possible if we could have like a market study done or some kind of research on what we charge as opposed to other cities who have senior housing, to see if it's at market, if it's who knows, it could be too high, it could be too low. But I think that seeing as we have not done that since 2017 and knowing that there's been inflation on everything else that we pay for in our lives, I think it's a good time to reassess that, especially coming into budget season. Obviously, we continue to increase expenses related to the senior housing, you know, flipping the apartments, replacing the parking lot, you know, all of these things that we do, hiring someone to oversee the building. So if we could get that, I don't even know how to put a time frame on that, but just something I wanted to put out there. It's after peak flu season, but as Councilmember Shornack pointed out earlier, everybody's got the flu. So with flu cases being higher than normal, it is not too late to get your flu shot. So please make sure, keep yourself and your neighbors safe and get your flu vaccine. And then I also just wanted to say great job to DPW on snow removal. I mean, my street doesn't get plowed as quickly as it used to either, but I understand that the world does not revolve around me and my street, and I am extremely grateful for the work that you guys do, because like Councilmember Baranski said, it is a thankless job, and I am so glad that you guys are out there doing that at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, because I don't even want to do my driveway. So great job, and, you know, I just hope that you get appreciation from the residents also, because I know that there are obviously always opportunities pointed out when things don't go their way. So thank you very, very much for all of the hard work that you do. With that being said, I guess I'll try to end it on a positive note. Happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there, right? You guys got the memo on wearing red and pink. You know, even Councilmember Perry down there. Great job.
Wasn't planned.
Oh, you should have taken credit for that. But, yeah,
I'm home alone.
I'm sorry.
You all set?
Soup for one at Mayor Lesich's house.
Are you all set?
I am all set. Thank you so much.
All right, nobody's buying me roses tomorrow. Laura's in Florida, so without me. All right, I'll make this quick because we do have another meeting, and we're going to take a little break after this. Real quick, snow, I'll just echo everyone else's thoughts. I do have one complaint. You pre-salted last night, which made the snow heavier in my approach. It was heavier than I wanted it to be, but other than that, as far as the map goes, I think that's a great idea. It's helpful if people have a place to go to see what the city is saying rather than rumor or here's what we used to do 20 years ago, which was plow 3 times by 6 a.m. And I think that's helpful because that policy changed several years ago and it really wasn't communicated well to the public. Let's see, pickleball. We have about $380,000 left in the park maintenance budget, I think, for capital improvements. So we could actually get that pickleball done ASAP, and I think that's important. And that was a resurfacing as opposed to simply a paint job. It was repairing it because there's some big cracks in there. And but I think that would be something that would be widely used, and it could become a draw for the city as well. And then last but not least, I'm doing my first wedding tomorrow. Well, it's not my first wedding, but I am performing my, I am performing my first wedding on Valentine's Day, and congratulations to Christine and Mike, and I'll meet you tomorrow at 12:45. That's it for me. All in favor, or motion to adjourn?
Go to the public.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ray. Come on up. I apologize.
Okay, name Ray Wojciechowski, Fraser Senior Housing. I didn't realize that Fraser was celebrating their 150th anniversary right now. Now, some of you may know that I'm a magician. I've been involved with the Magicians Club for many, many years. Basically, we had our 200th USA show back in 1976. I was one of the performers on that show. Very fortunate. Now, we're doing research with the one we're going to be having in May with I did some research with President Trump, and he's going to be pushing the year 2026 for the 250th anniversary for the United States. So coming in May, before May Memorial Day, he's going to start pushing the party. Everybody celebrate USA, the 250th birthday. So it's going to start in May. It's going to go all the way to July 4th, 2026. No, I didn't realize till somebody said it was 150 years for Fraser. So why not jump on the bandwagon and 250 USA, 150 Fraser. Push it. People will know what's going on. With 150, 250, things just rhyme. Easy for people to remember. Just a quick idea. Take it or leave it.
Thank you, Ray.
Ray.
Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to sneak up here.
Your name, please, for the record.
Captain Gillis, Fraser Department of Public Safety. Part of my note preparation for tonight's presentation, I totally forgot I wanted to give Mayor and Council an update on Squad 2. You were very supportive last March in allowing us to start that project. So far, since the squad was put into service in December of 2024, it's gone on 54 ambulance runs in just over 2.5 months. We've only received mutual aid 7 times since it's gone into service. Prior to that, we were averaging 13 a month. And also, we've been able to provide mutual aid 23 times in 2 months. And prior to that, we were averaging about 8 times a month we were doing that. So what we spoke about with our ambitious project with your support is definitely kind of coming to fruition. I'm rarely at council meetings anymore, but I wanted to make sure I came and gave you that update because we did appreciate the support for that ambitious undertaking, and our personnel are really doing a great job, and they're really excited about that extra service they're able to provide. So thank you very much.
Right. Yes.
Can I ask you a
Hold on,
question, Captain
Captain.
Gillis? Sorry.
Yes.
I was just curious. So, I mean, that's wonderful, by the way. Does that include the machine that we had approved that gives the chest compressions? You know what I'm talking about? There was that,
The Lucas device?
yeah, the Lucas device.
We have had CPR calls.
Okay.
So the Lucas device is used on that. I don't have a breakdown of how many actual calls it's been used on, but I can say it's been used.
I just thought that was such a great tool for you guys to have in your tool belt and was so excited to approve that I was just wondering, like, when you guys, unfortunately, when you have to use it, are you like, wow, so glad that we have this Lucas device, just like how it's going? Yeah, Director Kretschmar, for those in the audience, she's nodding her head yes, so.
He's fired.
Huh? What? She would do a commercial for the Lucas device. That's wonderful.
I saw it on a TV show the other day, and I'm like, whoa, that's what that is.
Yeah, we've got one of those.
All right, or can
Okay.
we
Thank
motion
you so
to
much.
adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Shornack, seconded by Odell to adjourn the regular meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 8:39. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Or as soon as we can get back here, let's get this show on the road, and we may have already discussed several of the topics. Good evening. It is now 8:51 PM. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. This is a budget workshop for the City of Fraser, Michigan. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There's no one to call the roll.
Went to go make copies.
That's right, we sent him to make copies.
Sent him to make copies.
I'll do the roll. Councilmember Baranski. Present. Mayor Lesich, present. Who would be next?
Odell.
Who?
Odell?
Councilmember Odell. Here. Councilmember Perry.
Still here.
Councilmember Shornack.
Still here as well.
Councilmember Stein.
Still here.
Councilmember Sutherland, or Mayor Pro
Present.
Tem Sutherland.
Oh,
All right.
still present.
Let the record reflect that all are in attendance. Okay, item 4, approval of the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion to approve by Mayor Lesich, seconded by Councilmember Shornack. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and I approve it too. Item number 5, citizen participation. There are no citizens in the audience. We will move on to item number 6, which is new business. Budget pre-planning discussion. And the format for this is, we're going to, I would like to do is have the department heads come up, talk a little bit about what their goals, wants, wishes, and needs are, and then if we can hold questions until they are done, or at least until they stop talking on a particular topic, that would be appreciated, so that we can give them an uninterrupted opportunity to tell us what's going on.
I've actually worked with them to put together a consolidated presentation, so I can do the main presentation, and then when we get to the other departments, if you have questions and drilling down, they will be able to answer those questions.
That would be fine. It's similar, but you're going to kind of take the lead on it.
Yep.
That's perfect.
So we'll follow the same format, starting with finance, and then public safety, public works, and then general.
Let's go.
All right. So as I mentioned, the agenda, we'll start with the financial overview and then drill down into the detail of public safety and public works and general operations. So first off, for the financial overview, I want to go to the current revenue summary. This is for fiscal year 2024-2025. For that current revenue, we currently have 27 million budgeted, and you can see the breakdown here of the revenue streams. Predominantly, the funding comes from property taxes and revenue sharing and state contributions. From the perspective of the expense summary, in our current budget, it's about 23.8 million overall, and you can see that the lion's share of that, 44%, is public safety department. And then after that, we have public works at 10%, 25% for capital outlay. This is a mix between different departments. The information was sourced from our Munetrics data. So this was all put together a little bit differently than what you may commonly see throughout our budget. For the millages, I just wanted to give a summary of where we have been with the millages and where we currently are. As you can see, back in 21-22, we were at 23.3921. In 22-23, we dropped down the millage for public safety from 3 down to 2. We had no change in 23-24, and then in 24-25, we dropped the PA 33 public safety millage down another half mil, which brought us down to 21.3525 mil. For just a general fund balance analysis, this is information that's based on our current fiscal year, 24-25. I had Angelique take a look and analyze really what our projected fund balance is going to be for the general fund and the other major funds. We really focused on the water, sewer, the streets for these major funds. So the general fund, we're looking at 10.3 million at the end of this fiscal year for fund balance, and that does include the restriction of the 3.5 million for the industrial roads. Other major funds, 22.4 million. When you take a look at what have been talking about through the audit process and recommending a reserve of 25% of our annual expenditures, the set aside that would be based on our current fiscal year, general fund that would be 4.9 million, and the other major funds 19.6 million. Keeping in mind for the upcoming budget, we are going to have that bond payment for the industrial park roads of approximately $500,000. That's certainly an unknown number at this point in time, but that would be the first payment that the city would have to make. Certainly a portion of those are going to be offset by the SAD. So with all of that information, projected available fund balance for the general fund would be 4.4 million, and other major funds would be 2.8 million.
Question, on this sheet you gave us here, it's 4.9 million?
I think that what was missing on that sheet was the 0.5 million for the bond payment.
Okay.
So moving on to our committed expenditures. So looking at the budget as a whole, one of the big things that you have to consider is the fact that we have so many costs in the budget that are already set either by labor contracts, pension OPEB costs, or other contractual obligations. We have obviously things that we have to pay regardless of what's going on for any type of planning. So utilities, our IT services, we have to pay dispatch, we have to pay our building contracts, assessing, insurance, legal, a number of other things. I think in the past I have provided a copy of the contracts that we have, and I think the list is somewhere around 50. So it's pretty significant, and as I mentioned, there are a lot of expenditures in the budget that are really already set in stone. Some of the projects that we do have in the current budget, and there will be certainly overlap with the next fiscal year budget, is the Masonic Detention Basin. This was a primarily ARPA-funded project. Certainly there's some funding that we have to utilize from fund balance to do this work. It's something that has been needed to be done a number of years. And then also the Garfield Road reconstruction, our cost share that we have to provide for that. And then the industrial park roads that we've been in the process of and working on getting that taken care of. That's a $16 million project that will be spread across a couple of years. Moving on to pension and other post-employment benefits obligation, just wanted to make sure that everybody has these numbers in front of them as well. The pension, this is for the retirees, 60% funded, and our net obligation at this point in time is approximately 30 million. OPEB, that is for the health insurance costs, we're about 5% funded, and our net obligation for that is approximately 26 million. The outstanding debt that we have primarily is for water and sewer projects. Certainly, these are projects that are outside of our ability to approve or deny. These are things that are part of the costs with the Oakland-Macomb Intercept District, and we are a part of that. We have the bonds that we are responsible for making these payments, and they are over $16 million, and you can certainly see that they extend out a number of years for quite a few of these. That is kind of a summary of where we are from the finance realm. So just kind of summarizing where we are, where we're going, what kind of financial position we are in with consideration for the budget for fund balance. Talking to Angeli about finance, there are fortunately no staffing needs that they are looking for, no significant purchases that they are looking for, and no significant projects. So if you have any particular questions from a financial perspective, Angeli's here to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilmember Baranski, go ahead.
I just have a question, and either one can answer it, because I'm not understanding the math. Because I'm looking at both the graphic, the very first slide, the fund balance analysis, as well as the estimated available fund balance slide that you gave us. So you say that at the end of the year, we'll have 10 million in the bank.
Can you go back to the fund balance analysis slide? Yep, thank you.
And you say in the sheet you gave us that we obviously want to keep 5.4 in as our emergency backup money. And then you say available funds after reserve is 4.4 million, taking out that 500,000. But is that inclusive or exclusive of the 3.5 million?
So 3.5 million is like when you see the fourth line.
Yep.
Fund 401, so it is exclude. So it is 10 million already taken care of 3.5 million.
Got
after
it.
3.5.
So we'd have 13 million. We
Yes.
take out the 5.4 for the reserve.
So yeah, reserve will include 25% of the expenditure at the year end. Plus we need some additional money for the mezzanine pump station. So I consider that one too.
Got it. So we actually have 4.4 million in surplus
Yes.
that we could use to potentially reduce expenses, because that is we have a fund balance actually that is equal to,
Yes, 4.4, yeah.
Got it.
You're taking 3.5, yeah.
yep, okay, that's what, I couldn't make sure because it said something about exclusive or inclusive, so I wanted to make sure of the language that it's 10 plus 3.5 is what we have at the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Odell.
Okay, so out of that $4.5 million, though, we have to project $400,000 a year to pay towards the bond of, sorry. All right, let me repeat that. So we have roughly about $4.5 million after our reserve and paying the bills and everything to not play with, but to figure out our future here. But every year, though, we got to come up with approximately $400,000 to pay down the debt of the
Bonds.
bond that we're paying for the industrial road park. So that money is going to draw down year after year unless revenues exceed the 400,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes up a little bit, but so do expenses. So that's just something we got to keep in the back of our head, is that 400 grand a year is going to be coming out of that general fund.
Right, but if we reduced the bond amount, that amount would be reduced as well.
But we don't know that until we know what funds. We got to go under the assumption we're not getting additional funds.
No. If we don't take out, if we don't bond as much, let's say we put another 2 million in and didn't bond it, we wouldn't
Talking
owe,
about for the industrial road park.
correct, yep. We wouldn't owe 500,000 every year.
4 million's coming from the taxpayers in that district.
Right.
We're putting 3.5 million out
Right.
of this number, so we've already taken that out.
Right.
We're also bonding another roughly 4 million, and then we got 4 million from the state.
Right, so if we
So-
only bonded 2 million instead of 4, we would owe less
So
at
what you're
each
saying
bond payment.
is pay 2 million out of that to,
Or some, that to me is logical. Why borrow money when we have money sitting there?
okay.
That was because I was like, oh, which is what we kind of thought. We just didn't know till we saw these math. This is exactly why I wanted to do this. Because remember, he said too, like, we can bond whatever amount we want.
Right.
Up to whatever but like to
Well, we
me.
need to finish the project.
Yeah. I'm with you that we have to make sure we pay it. But the other problem that we know from past experience, any money sitting in the general fund is open to whatever arbitrator tells us we have to pay, regardless of whether we want to or not. So we don't get to control the money if we don't designate it upfront. Which is why, to me, why borrow money? Why borrow 4, borrow 2? Or 3, or what, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's a lot of money. That was,
Sure.
this is the kind of conversation I was hoping to have.
Or we
Use it somewhere else.
spend that on additional
100%.
streets, and do more infrastructure with the extra money we have here, just keeping in mind that.
Spend it,
Yes.
not keep it in the bank.
Correct.
One thing to keep in mind is that half of that is going to be collected annually through the SAD.
Right.
So that 500,000, actually, half of that is the SAD that will be funding it, and the other half is our.
So closer to 200,000, if we took out the full,
Right, and then Never know when John James might come through for us.
Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, but, okay.
I think bond payments and principal interest will be around 700K per year. And SAD depend, they are paying in the front or 15-year span, it will be around 3,000. Like, if I just divide by the 15-year 300, so it will still be 400.
Or the city's obligation to be
After
around
offsetting
400,000.
300, 400 at least.
Yeah, 400
go
over
for
15
that.
years is 6 million. Yeah, so that's probably the number is around 400. No, on an $8.5 million bond where half of it is paid, or half of it is paid for by the special assessment.
Yeah, half of that will be like, I think we said 8.5 million right now. 8.5 million for the bonds, and we are trying to collect 4 million from the AD. So yeah, approximately half will be coming from the taxes.
Okay. Couple questions. We had talked in the past about making a resolution for a target fund balance. Would that be helpful for you, so you know what number we're looking for to maintain, and we agree with, your recommendations? Or so can we come up with a resolution for the next meeting?
Yep, we've already talked about that, and she's preparing it, and we plan on having it at the March meeting.
Okay, so then we
need
have
to have that ahead of the budget.
I agree, and then we're saying this money is going to be for operations and maintaining cash flow, basically.
Yes.
And then the second part is, this is always the, we talk about it, we never get it done. The 5-year plan, or at least a multi-year plan that says, okay, we're going to spend this year, and then we're looking at 2 years out or 3 years out. 5 years out is a guess, I understand that, but 2 years should be reasonable. Can we, now that we have our books in order, and that you understand them a lot better than you did a year and a half or 2 years ago when you started, and they're audited, could we now start looking forward and saying, based on this model of business that we're doing, here's how much it's going to budget this year, and then next year's budget would be somewhere? Could we do something like that, so we have something in our hands that says, we're looking forward more than just 12 months?
You're looking operating as well as capital, like more.
Yes, operations, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the ongoing, what does it cost to keep the city running on a daily basis, basically?
It is possible, yeah.
I would like to see that. It's come in fits and starts over the years. We've had it, and then we didn't have it. We haven't had one for a very long time. I think that would be helpful as we get further down that budget process, too.
Okay.
I noticed the numbers are a little different because you use Munetrics.
Correct.
And they're always a little bit different than our books. So if somebody's looking at our year-end audit, it's going to look different than the numbers you saw there on the Munetrics. They take some things out.
Yeah. So I checked Munetrics. I was looking that this number is matching with the audited financial statement. So they are taking the only governmental fund. So it is always different when you go to the general fund, governmental fund, enterprise fund. So so most number are matching when I go. So actually, if you look the F65 report, the audit report, it is matching from there. So I
Okay.
go to that report and match the numbers.
Okay, very good. I guess that's it for finance. Anything else? You have enough staff to do what you need to do accounting-wise, and the
Yeah.
payroll clerk, you have that new payroll clerk. How's that working out?
Yeah, we are like Tanya is doing the training with her, so yeah, it's coming good, and hopefully by a couple of weeks we will get back our the girl. She's after the mat leave.
Okay.
We will have fully staffed then. Yeah, good, going good.
Any other questions for finance? No? Okay.
All right, let's move on to Department of Public Safety. Focusing here on this and delving deep into the budget for Department of Public Safety, as far as the major expenses above and beyond just what we have generally budgeted for, like labor costs and contractual costs, things like that. What they're looking for in this fiscal year is one patrol vehicle, which is fairly typical. We've been trying to get our capital plan a little bit more spread out so that we're not getting in a position where we're getting 2-3 cars replaced a year and trying to separate that out so that we're not replacing everything all at once. Also looking to replace an unmarked pickup truck. The ALS unit, obviously, we recently added another ALS unit and we equipped it. We're looking to actually replace the primary vehicle at this point in time. That includes any additional changes or outfitting. Sam is also looking to move forward with Michigan accreditation, which would bring our public safety to a whole new level. What that involves doing is going through and systematically looking at all their processes and procedures, everything, and making sure that we are as defensible and doing things as professional as possible. That's a 2-year program to get through, and it's $50,000 for the first year and $15,000 for the second year. On to the next slide, talking about the public safety staffing, as we discussed tonight. The only position that they're really looking for is the addition of that full-time fire marshal position. You know, we've all talked about it and heard about it, and obviously proximity so close to the GU facility. We want to do everything that we can to make us as safe as possible, and the last thing that we want to do is have to deal with a significant legal liability in the community. So that's really the only significant stuff. Obviously, we have some contracts that we need to work on and other contracts that we just have the obligations that we need to fulfill for the contracts. Other than that, Sam is here if you have any particular questions for her about any of those items or anything else from the budget perspective.
Councilmember Baranski.
I was just wondering, when do all the contracts expire?
So we've...
Sorry, just an administrative
Yep, we've,
question.
yeah. We've talked about the captain's one is up in June. The other ones, I believe, are December 26th, I think would be the next one. Might be 27.
So can you get that for us, because that's going to be a consideration that we will need to discuss.
Yeah, the only one for public safety is the captain's.
For the coming budget year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Director, I have a question. Just, can we go back to that previous one about needs? I think it's 2 back. That one, stay right there. The ALS unit, that would come out of the ambulance fund, and I looked at the
Right.
ambulance fund balance, and we're doing fine there. The accreditation, $65,000, can that come out of gambling forfeiture? Could that?
Yes.
Okay, that could come out of gambling forfeiture, good. I would like to see something like that. That's a public safety specific expenditure, and I think that, so keep that in mind as you go through your budget.
Okay.
Unmarked pickup truck, what would that be for?
So the vehicles are all part of the capital improvement plan that I submitted
Okay.
last year, which has the breakdown of how many cars we have, their mileage, the years and whatnot, and when we're buying them, and it pushes it out for several years, including a fire truck, which will come in, 7 or 10 years, something like that. But just to give us an idea of the vehicles that are going to come up that need to be replaced. So here, we've replaced most of the patrol vehicles over the last couple of years. Well, we've tried. We don't have them yet. It's happening, I've been told. But so we will have one more patrol vehicle that needs to be switched out and outfitted. The unmarked is, we've got 5 unmarked cars for use for administration and investigations, and they're all interchangeable, but it's one of the unmarked cars, and that car is, I believe it's 15 years old. There's 135,000 miles on it. It still runs. We're still using it, certainly, but it's part of the replacement plan. And the ALS unit was something that we discussed when we started that second unit. So that's where the cars.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Odell.
So is the unmarked truck, is
It's just used for more administrative purposes?
It is, which is why it doesn't get beat up nearly like the patrol cars, which run 24 hours a day. These cars are just run normal business.
So they're not going to need special equipment or?
No, I mean, they have radios in them, but they don't have push bumpers, and they're not outfitted like patrol cars, no.
Okay. And then the Michigan accreditation, what is that? What does that do for the department? I mean,
It really is,
other than
it's a standard of professionalism that is starting to, not starting, it's well underway. I was looking into it a little bit even today in preparation for the meeting, and 80% of Michigan police officers are already either under accredited status in their agencies or going through the process. And it's being discussed that there is a national push to have all agencies accredited in order to be eligible for grant funding. That hasn't happened yet, but that's part of the conversation. And really what it does is standardize policies, procedures, practices that have already been vetted, that are legally sound, that have already, stood the test of time. Many of these agencies, they're very, very similar in these policies, but we tailor them to fit our own needs. Public safety does something a little bit different, so those are taken into consideration. That cost there is to hire that out. It can be done in-house, but it takes a significant amount of time and manpower to do that, and we certainly can't do that on our own. We would need to hire this out. I don't think it's quite that high. I don't have a quote. I will have all of that for you when I come before council with it. So there is that significant cost to have somebody come in and help us get through the process. It is very lengthy. It takes a year or two to get through it. Most of the communities around us have it. Sterling Heights, Warren, Clinton Township, Roseville, Centerline is in the process, DPD is in the process. So many, many agencies are going to this. So the first year there is a cost that's not that high. I went a little bit high in my guesstimation because I haven't figured it out all the way yet. But that's just to get us going. And then the second year is really for them to come in and make sure that we're following these processes that have been in place and that we have a full understanding of how to use it. With that comes Power DMS, which is a software which tracks all of these policies, pushes the policies out regularly or as timing is required to officers who then digitally accept these policies as having read them. And then there's proofs that you have to show that you're actually implementing these policies and that people are following them. It's not, I mean, we have policies now, certainly, and I think we've done a really good job with that. But with this accreditation comes proofs that we're actually having it in practice. And there's other safeguards where there's things put in place to track potential problems, like if there's particular people that are always in a pursuit or particular people that have more use of force than others. It flags those things so that you can give it more attention if it needs, so that you can say, okay, well, this is justified, or maybe it's not, or maybe steer somebody or get them additional training if it looks like there's a problem. It doesn't mean there is a problem, but it brings it to your attention so that you can pay more attention to it and make adjustments or training is necessary. So that's really what it is. It's a standard of professionalism that's really helpful. These policies are vetted, so everybody knows that you're on board. Everybody understands what it is, and it's more oversight, quite frankly.
Thank you.
I have a question on the ALS. When did we buy the other one? It seems like yesterday, but it's probably been 4 or 5 years. So we're in the
tell you that
market
off the
again
top of my
to,
head.
and there's a.
So we have 2 ambulances. One is newer than the other, right? So
Right.
obviously, the Squad 1 is the newer truck that we're using. We've now and Squad 2 was more of a backup. So if something would happen to it, if there was damage, maintenance, whatever, we would use Squad 2. Well, now Squad 2 is in service full-time, and that truck is much older.
Right.
So our intent is to buy a new squad, and Squad 1 will now be the Squad 2 because it's used less, and the new truck would be put in as our primary Squad 1 vehicle.
If
What the
one of
year
the-
is off my top of my head, I can't say.
It's like I said, it seems like yesterday. It's probably been 5 years now, so. So if one of those units went down, then we have firefighters sitting on the sidelines, and with the age of both units, that could be a problem.
Well, certainly, we don't want anyone sitting on the sidelines.
Well, I understand
All
that.
hands on deck. But, well, yes, if one of the squads goes down, then certainly that hampers our ability to run too.
Okay. Like I said, the money is there, but.
It is, yes. And that was
What's the
part of
lead
our
time?
conversation. I'm sorry?
What's the lead time on that?
It's significant. But I would have to pull my notes from.
So we're looking at probably the purchase of it or delivery of it sometime in 2026, actually.
Likely.
Yeah, okay. Seems like a long time, but not really.
Time flies, though. I mean, we started talking about this last March, and here it is almost a year, and, you know, it took, 6-8 months to get it going, and now it's going. So, I mean,
Yep.
nothing happens quickly in government.
Council member Baranski, I didn't say councilman, I was.
Oh, you're fine.
Mumbling.
Councilman's fine. It doesn't matter. I don't rest on titles. What is the ambulance fund balance, Mr. Mayor?
It was like 2.5 million right now.
Okay. Who decides what the millage rate is? I see it went down because it's 2.5 million.
It goes down based on the Headley rollback.
So we don't have any ability to reduce it further? I guess that's the question. Oh, Don's not here. Can we, I mean, we have $2.5 million in there. Can we, as part of our budget for the coming year, reduce that millage amount? Can we legally do it? I get we may not want to do it, or we may want to do it, but can we legally do it? Does anyone know?
I'm fairly confident that you can.
Okay.
You can, but we did add this year we did add 2 firefighter EMTs.
Correct.
Coming out of that budget, so we have to be very careful on that, on going forward, because part of that calculus for me was, the budget, it's healthy, and we are now taking some of that extra revenue that comes in, that we've had coming in, and we're putting it towards actual people and that squad too, so. But yes, you can.
Right, and so I would like to look at the math and figure out if there's an opportunity there to lower the tax to the residents while still providing the service, because we didn't add $1 million in expenses, and I get I'm not talking about depleting it, but at the same time, obviously, we're either we're doing one of two things, and I think we're collecting more than we need, and we weren't spending it, but the problem is we spent like $1 million for a fire truck, and then we had to turn around and get another one because issues that are not.
Yeah, and that comes from, and that's why the ALS, that's $250,000 out of that, so that takes, they like to keep around $1 million is what, for reserves, but yes, that can be looked at. It
So we have
has.
$1.5 million that isn't going from, that's just to me an opportunity.
That is the number I looked at from the most recent agenda. That doesn't mean it's the year end and it doesn't have all the other factors in it, so that could come down.
Okay, so I'll get that, I'll ask for that then from Angeline.
Yes. She is the one to do that. But the millage does come down through Headley rollback automatically. That's why our millage went from 18-something to 17.5 over the last 4 years. Okay. Any other questions of, anything else you'd like to add from public safety?
Nothing that the city manager had asked for purposes of tonight's meeting, larger or capital improvement requests. So certainly I will have more than this when I actually come before council and say some things. But one of the things that's on my head to ask for, which is a little more expensive than what we've typically done, is in our training budget. I would like to start to train the sergeants up more so than what they are through staff and command. Typically in the department, we've sent people who are captains or lieutenants or whatever the higher rank was to staff and command, but because we don't have so much of that upper level, it's not there. I feel like the sergeants in the department would benefit from them to get more advanced leadership training. So that's one of the things that I will probably be requesting. And I'm sure there's some other incidental things. I mean, we've looked into a drone program that we've been discussing and pulling numbers and attending meetings and having presentations. So that is certainly something that's on our radar as well. We're not going to come with that as of yet, just because we're still looking at some of the legal aspects regarding that. But there are a few things that certainly would benefit the community that are not on this slide, but don't cost nearly as much, that would rise the level of capital.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Let's see, who's on the hot seat next? Mr. Barrett.
That will now move on to Department of Public Works. Just want to give you a bit of a local major streets overview. So we have 70 lane miles of local streets, 16 lane miles of major streets, generally a useful life of 25 years. If we were to look at things from a perspective of a full replacement cost, it would be $129 million. Based on that full replacement cost, we would require an annual investment of $5.1 million for our roads. Obviously, that's not true life situation. Typically, you try to maintain your roads, nurse them along, and be able to smooth that number somewhat, but eventually roads do give out. Do they maybe last longer than 25 years? Do we push them longer than 25 years? Certainly, we can say that. So, as I mentioned, regular maintenance can reduce that overall cost. Looking at utilities, I've got the amounts there and for water, sewer, and storm sewer. Useful life of those generally is 75 years. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Anyways, useful life about 75 years. So if you were to look at a full replacement cost, you're at almost $255 million for that. Based on that, you would need an annual set aside for all of the repairs and replacement of $3.4 million. Similar type thing is that we try to nurse things along. Do they last longer than 75 years? I believe some water and sewer lines in New York City are 200 to 300 years old. So certainly you can get a little bit more bang for your buck and stretch that out. Do you want to? Maybe not. The impact of the Great Lakes water rates was taken into consideration. I did have John Kazor, who did our utility rate study, take a look at what the rates were that we have set and have planned for, at least for the next year, and what the proposed Great Lakes water rates are. And he seems to think that we would be in a comfortable position with what we recently approved and plan to have for the next fiscal year. Moving on to the expense requests. We've been working on fully developing the capital plan and refining it. Certainly, Rob has done a phenomenal job at putting together his forecast. We will be getting into that detail when we get to the budget, but just to kind of give you a summary of where we are in some of the more extensive capital projects. The industrial park roads, we're going to certainly have that funding in the next budget. There are a number of moving parts for all of that, and based upon when construction timing is going to be occurring, when we're going to be going out to bids and getting the project started is still a bit in flux right now. Certainly, a lot of the industrial park roads costs are going to be offset by the state funding and the SAD proceeds. We're hopeful that the 16 million is going to be more like, what would you say? Maybe 10 million? That'd be great, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we won't really know until we go out to bids. Right now in the process, we are hopefully at the March meeting, we should have the intent to issue bonds resolution. So we will be working with bond counsel to issue bonds for the project. Mike Vigneron and his team at AEW are starting to do all of the pre-planning work for the project. We did have a great meeting with the property owners It was an open drop-in meeting for AEW to get information about what kind of needs they have to be able to keep their business open and functioning as far as driveway access. So they are planning and planning and planning, and we fortunately are staying on time for this, so that's a great thing. Local major street improvements, we haven't forgotten other streets in the community, so we're still planning a $1.1 million investment in that as well. Sidewalks, we still have a lot of work to do in that. Storm sewer rehab, working on that as well. Storm improvements, that 1.9 million includes the Masonic detention basin. The water improvements, based on the utility rate study, the plan for that was about 2.1 million. Buildings and grounds, this covers a lot of area, from building maintenance and park improvements, senior housing, looking this year potentially around 1.6 million. We can delve into some of the detail about that. I know we've been looking and talking about Stephens Park improvements. We're looking to have the RFP at the March meeting. I know because we have this doubleheader meeting, we had talked at one point in time about having it at this meeting. We pushed it off to the next meeting in an effort of time and the fact that there was no way that we were going to be able to meet any deadlines that really impacted moving that a month. So we've got the RFP ready for your consideration for Stephens Park plan at the next meeting. We can't really do anything, get any funding until we really have a good idea what we want to do with Stephens Park and have a site plan. I did do a web meeting regarding the funding with Michigan for the parks funding, DNR funding, and it's dramatically changed in the last 5 years or so since I last put an application in, and they really do require a well-vetted project that has a lot of detail and you're ready to go instead of just we want to put a water park in. So just to let you know, the planning process is going to be a very important part if we want to get any of that state funding. And also we've talked about the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation funding. They've gone along that same line as well, is that they are looking for detail, they are looking for site plans, they are looking for something that is shelf-ready to implement. Moving on from that, so far as equipment, looking at a couple plow trucks and also continuing the LEAF program. Rob has kind of taken a look at what Mark had proposed, I think the last budget, and really taken a sharper look at it and coming up with a better, more economical option for continuing the LEAF program. Other than that, I know that we talked about the tennis/pickleball courts, so we had that in the budget. I think we were talking about it last year. We had broadly talked about $400,000 for Stephens, and we kind of got a stumbling block. And then we also have the offer from Fraser First talking about wanting to put in a bandstand. So we still have that 400 in funding in there. Looking at some of the numbers for redoing the tennis courts, because of all the cracks, it's foundational. It's not just a matter of just redoing the surface, and I think the estimates were around 300,000. That is something we could certainly look into potentially using that money. However, there's still so many other things from the perspective of parks that we would be looking to do. And I actually think that they are currently striped for pickleballs, but I don't know about any different type of netting or anything. So that would be something, if we're moving forward with it, we're certainly going to want to implement it because pickleball is a super popular sport right now. That's all I have for the summary. So obviously Rob is here. If you have any questions, want to drill down to maybe some of the detail.
Wow. That's like $9 million. As far as pickleball, 300,000 is the or the tennis courts, I should say?
So the Stephen Parks tennis courts, we estimated $300,000 that was reconstructed, and then there was another cost to replace the fence of $50,000 also, which you should do if you're going to be doing that reconstruction.
Okay. 700,000 in sidewalks, where were you thinking?
So that was a placeholder based on this, our SEMCOG grant, and where we have these sidewalk gaps that we are recognizing throughout the city. It is quite drastic how many areas, it's surprising how many areas do not have sidewalks. But it's just a placeholder to, once we get a recommendation, a final recommendation in the, from the grant, we can at least discuss where you would like to propose to fill in the gaps.
Question for you. I don't know if you know this. How often can you apply for a TAP grant? Is that
I think every year.
annually? It's not a multiple times a year that you can apply? Okay.
I don't think so, I should tell you.
That I would like to see us do at some point, pick some high priority sidewalk gap projects and see if we can get some TAP funding for that.
Yeah, we've got that SEMCOG grant, and
Right.
we actually just met a couple of days ago with the group, really focusing on the feedback that we got through the surveys and taking a look at where we are missing pieces of sidewalk. One of the things that we've tasked AEW to do is to get a little bit more feedback from the school. They have not had an opportunity to meet with them yet, because the school is a pretty integral part of people that really have a need to use the sidewalk. And then they were also going to, they were going to talk to another group, I can't recall what,
We were giving them some direction to meet with the rec department too.
Recreation, yeah. So wanted to get some feedback from Recreation Commission, because one of the things that was talked about, that they got some feedback, was connecting the parks via sidewalks. So there are quite a few gaps for sidewalks to some of the parks. So Chris will be just talking about it at Recreation Commission and trying to get some feedback from them as well.
And on the subject of sidewalks too, it's be worth noting that Clinton Township has recently rejoined the thought of having a connection to Freedom Hill, or what's that called?
Freedom
Trail.
Freedom Trail on 16 Mile Road, and Roseville's considering the same, so the three communities can get a network up to Freedom Trail and start joining all the other metro parks in the area. That's all preliminary, just so you know.
Sure. And I had talked to Bob Cannon and Dan O'Leary over there prior to that. I'd put the bug in their ears of, would you ever consider that? So having this SEMCOG funded grant, we have a concrete need we can identify, and hopefully, perhaps join in with them and do a grant application. What do you call that? Two communities work together? It's
Collaboration.
a collaboration. There you go. All right, Councilmember Baranski.
Yeah, so just kind of going over this, if I'm looking at it right, the vast majority of this, though, is either granted or state funding, right? It's not,
No,
well,
some of it is,
the sidewalks are. We're not spending general fund dollars for that, right? That's a grant.
Oh, that'd be a choice. Yeah, that's,
We may be able to get grants.
Right, you're not asking for $750,000 if we don't get a grant.
Correct. And what we're doing is putting a placeholder out there so we have opportunities to, if we have a funding source, and get guidance from council and see if they want, based on the grant opportunities or out-of-pocket costs, if you want to fill in these gaps.
Oh, I see, okay, so that is a need to, funding to be determined.
So the SEMCOG study is identifying the needs and doing a great job of
Oh, 'cause-
posting it and doing all the surveys and everything else. So that's the projected outcome of how we're going to fill these gaps and needs that we have.
Okay, so, and then what about like the storm improvements, 1.9 million? Where would that funding come from?
So the majority that's already spoken for at the Masonic Pump Station, and some, because I think our project was 1.9 million, and we had 1.2 in ARPA,
1.5.
1.5.
Did we use some for here?
So that's a big part of the investment. And another part of the storm, just looking out ahead is, we recognized last year when we were doing the water main projects in the Admiral and Air and Street areas, is we haven't paid a lot of attention to our storm system in the area. And in looking in advance of any water main projects, we're, based on what we recognized and heard from City Council, you're looking for a complete project when you come through. We should do the storms, we should make sure the sewer's right. Let's not leave the pavement in bad condition, let's replace the signs. So there's some earmarks that we're gonna project out and have in front of you at budget time.
Got it. And then the building and grounds, obviously the senior housing comes enterprise fund, so that's self-funded. But the 1.6 million, is that in addition to this year's money? Is this new money, or what's this 1.6? Like,
That'd be new money.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is inclusive of senior housing, which obviously is its separate fund.
Right.
And as I said, we're still working on really refining the capital improvement plan and what the specific asks are going to be. This is just kind of a summary of what we're considering right now.
Okay, got it.
They've still got a couple more weeks of working on theirs, and then their budgets come to me. I look at all of those together and then start refining the budget from there.
I got it. And then just weighing in, since we already have the money budgeted, and it is, everyone loved it when we redid it. It's a bummer it has to be done again, but it needs structural improvement. I think I would request that you bring it back next month so we can get it done this spring.
Talking about the tennis courts?
It is what it is. It's been used so well, and we have the money in this budget already, and we have the money at the end of the year. So that's what I would request, is that it be on the agenda for the next meeting.
We can do that.
That's all I have for you. Thank you.
So I think a lot of the questions, I think Councilmember Baranski and I, how do you pay for it? And which bucket of money it comes out of. So as we go through these as you outline these projects, if you could add a column or something that says, where's the money? Is it local streets? Is it?
Yeah, he'll have that.
Yeah, this was a conversation about how it would help me make a decision, is if I knew which particular bucket it's coming out of, as I'm looking at it. The question, the local major streets of 1.1 million, what does that buy us?
Major local streets,
Well, let's look at local streets. Major streets, I understand, is.
So we're looking ahead and, we're looking ahead at some of the water main projects that are coming through, particularly on the asphalt roads. We considering taking out the spray patching because it's not a useful fix in a lot of subdivisions. It was a great fix in the industrial sub and held the joints together. But doesn't get you a lot, if that's what you're asking.
That is what I'm asking you. What do we get?
You're getting some overlay, 10-year overlays on, we're looking ahead at Callahan, York, Schoolcraft, just some streets that will follow a proposed water main project.
And we have $4.4 million in unassigned fund balance from general fund.
Yes.
I'm sure there's 18 ways to spend that off the top of your head.
Real easy.
I'm sure you can. So the question is, is there something for the council to consider? Is there something that we'd like to put into local streets that would get us more done than that $1.1 million? And whatever our water main projects are, we can use some of that for road rehabilitation when we tear up the road, replacing the mains. But that doesn't, as it's been explained to me, local street budget basically pays for cleanup in the winter.
It does.
And some potholes, and not a whole lot of replacement itself.
And that's why we're mindful on our winter maintenance budget too, because that's out of the same fund as the fund to replace roads and patch roads with. It's your act.
Yeah, and that money comes from the state. That comes from fuel taxes and registration fees, or some portion of that. Water improvements, 2.1 million. we just did Kingston. We just accelerated that project, kind of leapfrogged the other projects.
Yes.
And that's costing us $1 million.
Yes.
Are we still able to do the 2.1 million that we had anticipated and still stay on fiscally? Because that project, I don't even know when Kingston was planned for.
I'll just verify right now, but I think Kingston was already forwarded in, and it should be it is in this year's budget already.
Right.
$836,000.
But I'm looking at, when was that originally projected?
Kingston was not on our 5-year capital.
Okay, so what
Water main break in the area, no, hardly any water's coming out.
I understand. I understand that problem. So from a capital improvement perspective, we approved a capital improvement plan a few months ago. That wasn't on it, or at least it wasn't on it in the first 5 years. Is that correct?
I don't think John included that in there because that was already within this year's budget. I don't think it was part of
It was already in process.
Can one of you confirm that? I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't want to end up dipping too far down in the reserves in that. We want to keep doing the capital improvements.
The 2.1 million is what the utility rate study we had earmarked to use based on the fees that we approved.
I understand that.
Yep.
But was the Kingston included during the rate study, or was that, I thought that we approved it after the rate study was complete?
That is a good question.
I'm just asking, because that nicks our fund balance by $1 million.
Correct.
And that changes our financial projection. Is there any way that Mr. Kazor could take a look at that and?
I'm sure if we can't find it in his report, he'll be able to come.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're on track and that because these capital improvements are necessary, we just need to continue to pay for them and make those hard choices. Any other questions from council about DPW? All right.
One more slide for DPW,
Okay.
and that would be the staffing request. He's looking for a new working foreman, which would be a $100,000 increase.
Okay. And what would that person do?
So, again, this was preliminary request to see if council would consider. I feel right now that we are fortunate enough, we have a really efficient, hardworking crew. But there is a lot of administrative work to do, and there's just myself and the supervisor, and Joe at the moment is not in the field supervising the guys. I think we're fortunate that we don't have to directly supervise them, but we don't know unless we're out there inspecting the work or supervising them and seeing what's done. We just see the results. I do feel that we are under managing our motor pool. It's one aspect I haven't got a handle on yet. We had, what was that leasing company?
Enterprise.
Yeah, Enterprise, which their reports and things when they were doing it was not all that good, and we let that contract lapse. But right now, there's something breaks, you send it in to get it fixed. And if tires are gone on, if somebody needs their tires replaced, you get tires replaced, and the only way to look it up to see when the last time the tires replaced is you got to scroll through the general ledger and say, when was the last time we bought tires for 33? There's not a good management of our fleet system, so I think the person could help out in that role. And we are continuing to always get more Eagle requirements and management and deadlines from Eagle to keep up with. The needs are there. I see a strong administrative need, but I would like to suggest that it could be a working foreman to work it out with the union, so this person could be out in the field and be allowed to work and if we can work it out, be part of the union. If that works out that way, the person will be able to supervise, but not necessarily be able to discipline or anybody, but they are going to be their boss.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Anything else for DPW?
Nope, I think we're ready to move on to general operations.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
Right, from the expense portion of general operations, one of the smallest asks from the biggest group of people, I would say. So generally, it amounts to about $100,000 for some computer upgrades, looking to update the roly-poly sign. So we've had communication issues with the software. One side of the sign is kind of dim. So looking to replace that. We've talked about a quarterly newsletter and looking to potentially roll out a quarterly newsletter. This would be a standalone mailer with information from all departments that would go to all residents. Also, it's time to start doing the master plan again. Not necessarily the full cost would have to be included in this fiscal year because normally the master plan takes a couple of years. Though if it's not an extensive upgrade, it could be achieved within one fiscal year. Website ADA compliance, this is something that is or has been planned to be mandated by 2026, is that we have to have a ADA compliant website. Primarily it would be for those that have difficulty hearing or seeing. Civic Plus Recreation module, we've had some conversations about having some type of module where we can do all of our program registration and also be able to parse out different times for people that are Fraser residents versus non-residents and platforms to be able to pay for that. And then one thing that Anjali and I would also like to see is an additional pension contribution of $500,000. We've kind of been, with that $3 million that we got from the state, we've kind of been straddling the 60% because of the way that they're constantly redoing the estimates from interest rates and life expectancies and things like that. It would be nice to get enough above and beyond that 60% funding that we know that we are in a position where we would not have to worry about any type of corrective action report. From a staffing request for the general operations, I have a request for a part-time building clerk. I understand in the past there has typically been 2 clerks. Once again, we do get into the positions where you have one full-time clerk. When that clerk is sick, on vacation, doing some training, something, we have no backup. Fortunately, some of our code enforcers have been phenomenal and have stepped up to help out, though they're not able to fully assist in a lot of requests. So it's really more so just taking someone's name and number and having someone get back to them in a future time. We've also had some discussions about potentially adding a business economic development grant coordinator. This would be someone that would help with all of the grants that we have. I've mentioned this before about how the fact that we have about 10 outstanding grants and ensuring that we are in compliance with the contracts, ensuring that we're getting the proper payments, ensuring that the projects are moving along. That's something that we all kind of have to try and work together and to have someone that can really make that their primary goal. I know that for a number of years there was a DDA here, and there's been some talk about bringing a DDA back or a TIF, something similar of that. The big thing that I would be very concerned about is that first and foremost, you need to have an idea what it is that you're looking for instead of just, I want a DDA. Well, what's the purpose of the DDA? What are you looking for a DDA for? What are you focusing on? Some of the new tax increment programs, you have to actually have a well thought out plan to do a tax increment, and then you bond for what the project is, and your tax increment pays the project back. Also, we have the phenomenal senior center recreation clerk that we hired. We've talked about expanding and trying to grow our Parks and Rec program. So looking to potentially move that one part-time person to full-time. So that's all the requests that we have from general operations. Do you have any questions about any of those specific items or other departmental questions?
Or Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland has a question or comment.
For the quarterly newsletter, so who's going to do that?
So that would be something that we were going to have the communications manager or coordinator do.
Part-time.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, so I actually did that in a community that I used to work in. It's something that's really not a lot of time consuming because you reach out to all of your department heads for your call for articles. Sometimes, like the mayor or someone would also have a comment in the newsletter, a little article or something, or the city manager. And it's really all about just compiling that and putting it together in some type of document formatting and sending it to the printer and ensuring that it gets out.
I just wanted to ask who is going to be doing it, because I want to make sure that whoever's going to be doing it, right, like we're going to be hiring, so if it is the communications person, that they have experience and they're bringing the receipts to the interview, that they have experience doing that, so that we're actually getting the bang for our buck for $20,000 to have a community newsletter, because I know that that is something that, you know, we've gotten that feedback from residents that they want that to come back, and I would hope that that includes like a digital option for it also.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I just wanted, so I'm glad to hear that it'll be resting with the communications person. I also wanted to ask, so for the increase for the part-time senior recreation clerk to full-time, is that going to be for senior center only, or is that individual that's currently part-time, would they be able to then dedicate some of their time to not only running the desk and the senior activities, but also maybe help Chris with other recreation activities? So while they're checking out books or, you know, doing whatever they're doing at the senior center, they can also plan community events as well.
So I don't know if it would be the full-time person or the part-time person that would do that.
Okay.
But definitely, there's already a relationship between that they are working on like community events and things like that together. So there is already that kind of mutual assistance going on.
Okay, and then, so we're talking about the existing part-time senior recreation
The
clerk
one person that we have over there.
become full-time.
currently. Yes.
Is that person interested? in
Yes.
Going full-time? Okay, that was the other thing, because we can make it, but if they don't want to go full-time, right, then it's kind of useless to have that. Okay, great. That was all. Thank you.
Councilmember Odell.
And with that position, do you think we can expand our senior center hours rather than because they're kind of burned up?
that's
I
part
feel
of
like we're really not utilizing that building efficiently.
Yep, that's part of the purpose. So as it is with, I would say the current structure as approved tonight with 2 part-timers over at the Senior Activity Center and then Chris primarily at City Hall, we have overlap between the 2 of them for any type of vacation, sick time, or can't really say vacation time yet because that doesn't apply until February for part-timers. But any type of overlap, something to think about, like over at the Senior Activity Center, we have events and things that go on. So you have someone that has to be at the desk and take care of the desk. You've got people coming in, they're paying for events, they're looking for information. Another person potentially is running some type of organized event. So to have a full-time person and then a part-time person over there would really just augment the ability to be able to do more. Chris goes over there, he helps a lot now, especially now that we're just kind of in this gap back down to 1 part-timer over there. So, you know, he goes over, does bingo, helps run some of the luncheons and things that they have. So it's just one of these things that's going to continue to build up Parks and Recreation at a slow, achievable speed.
Yeah, and like I say, when I live in that subdivision, I drive by there during the day. There are tons of cars there, so I know there's the want for those activities. So, you know, instead of closing out 1 or 2, let's get it to 3 or 4. You know, so we can offer more if we can do it for relatively low cost.
Yeah, we started making kind of baby steps with that, adding the Friday to it. When we had Diane and Chris were the only two people, Chris was the one that was over there covering Fridays. So just being able to continue to expand those offerings. Certainly regretful that we can't do anything other than senior activities at the building, but there is a ability for them to do some of the legwork for some other activities there.
Question. You mentioned the 20,000 increase to take the current senior recreation clerk to full-time. Then did I hear you mention another part-time clerk as well? So we'd have less, essentially 1.5 FTE?
Right. So that's where we were until Diane left, that you had approved another part-time. So that brought us to two part-time. Then Diane left and took us back to one part-time. And then tonight you approved bringing back the part-time. So in this next fiscal year, we will be looking at one full-time and one part-time over there.
Okay, I thought I heard that, and I just want to make sure, so I frame it right. Okay. I agree the senior activity center needs to be used more. Of course, I would like to see it used for anything, community-based, and I'll continue to prod the congressman and whoever else we can to get that going. But in the meantime, that would like to see it used much more than it currently is, because right now it's not an efficient use of, we're paying to heat it, we're paying to maintain it, and we're only using it half the time. So I think we all have said that out loud many times. Any other comments from council? Anything else you want to wrap up with? Because I think that's the last one.
Nope, I've got a couple summary slides
okay.
to go through.
Thank you.
That hopefully can kind of bring this together and
Take it away.
get you guys thinking. So for the summary, projected average revenue increase of about 3%. A big chunk of that is the state money that we will get. So they're projecting around, I think, 3 to 4%. Property taxes, we don't quite know where we're going to stand with that and what kind of millage reduction fraction there will be either. Average increase of our costs, 3 to 4%. Our biggest cost is labor. Our average labor contract over the next year is, I think, 2.6%. Certainly, we've got the contract negotiations coming up, clerical, DPW, courts, and then also the captains I didn't put on there. Net liabilities, just kind of summarizing what we have there, water, sewer, pension, OPEB, we've got $72 million that we owe out there. So major expenses, what so far they are proposing is about $17.5 million. Of that is the $8 million for the industrial roads. So you take that out, it's approximately $9.5 million, which is what we currently have in our budget for the major expenses is about $9.5 million as well. So we're staying pretty consistent with that. Projected new labor costs of approximately $325,000 for those positions that we've talked about, the fire marshal, the DPW position, and the other positions. So items for you guys to really consider when we're looking at the budget. The purchases, are there any purchases that you think we should probably not put in the budget? You know, the big things that we've talked about, like the leafer, the ambulance units, and then staff positions, are there any that you think are an absolute no-go? And then millage rates, certainly talking about PA 33, we've done it every year since I've been here. It's been a significant issue to think about. We also have ALS and our refuse. We've talked about our refuse in the past, that there's a pretty good fund balance in there. We did work with the attorney to take a look and see if we can expend the leaf truck out of that, which he is comfortable with that expenditure. Our priority contract, well, our contract with our waste hauler, who happens to now be priority, is expiring. We need to consider if we're going out to bids or renegotiating with them. Rob has mentioned the other communities are looking at a 20% increase in costs. So that's something to consider, to be able to take a look at the numbers and see if maybe reducing the refuse millage might be an option. So we're going to be delving deep into those numbers and taking a look as well. Sometimes it can be very helpful to take the decision away from you every single year to try and tie some of these rates to something. I had at one point in time kind of looked at the PA 33. Do we tie that to all of our expenses for public safety? And then maybe your general is the one that you're looking at adjusting. Unfortunately, we can't do that because I think you can't go above 10 mils for that. I haven't gotten final confirmation on whether you can do that or not, but that would be something from a strategy perspective that might be confusing to residents to reduce one and go up on another. So that might not be the best option, but maybe tying that millage rate to some particular expense or cost from public safety so that you can take a look at it. Here's the numbers, what's a reasonable amount for that? So just giving you a couple ideas to start thinking about when we're working on the budget. I don't think that we're going to be able to come to any decision tonight about what that millage rate is. So when I'm working on the budget, I'm certainly going to be looking at it and seeing what makes sense. Likely, I will move forward with the PA 33 rate and assuming that we are going to stay the same, but certainly looking at the numbers once we have them all in place, that's something that can be adjustable. So I don't want everyone to think that I've set it at 1.5 and it's concrete. I need to have a number in there when I'm working on the budget. So I just wanted to let you all be aware about that. And as I said, I'll be getting a little bit more information about the refuse. Other than that, I don't really have anything else. I hope that this was somewhat helpful and certainly tried to move things along and stay on topic.
Great. I do have, when's the garbage contract expiring?
I believe it is in June of this year. September?
So it's in the next fiscal year. It's coming up this year. We're going to be talking about it in the fall. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up fast. It's not something that we really want to drag our feet on because it can be a timely process. I don't know if there are any other contractors out there that would bid in this area because it really has been priority in this area. It's been interesting to kind of see the changes in waste disposal companies, that they seem to really be taking over areas instead of having a lot of competition, which to a certain extent is good because that way you don't have a lot of different waste hauling companies that are driving across all the roads all the time.
Okay. Anything else from council?
Did we have our next meeting? Didn't we have that date set for?
So April is when we have the public hearing. And then I believe it's the week after that we will have our next workshop.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn unless there's anything else. Motion to adjourn. Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Shornack, seconded by Councilmember Ardell to adjourn the special meeting at, what time? No. 10:09. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.